Testing. Okay, it's July 14th, 5:03. I'd like to call the Special Finance Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take a roll?
Councilwoman Mazzulli.
Present.
Councilman Riley.
Present.
Councilwoman Marino. Present. Councilman Donegan. Councilman Campiano. Council Vice President Ferry.
Present.
Council President Paplaskas.
Present.
Okay, tonight we have one item on the agenda, which is the advice and consent hearing on the mayor's appointment of Ernie Tomasiello as Community Development Director. At this time, I'd like to open up public hearings. Is there anyone here in council chambers that would like to speak on this matter? Please step forward.
If I may.
Director McCauley.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. I have nothing prepared because I'm going to speak from the heart. I've had the pleasure of working with Ernie in his position as Director of Constituent Affairs. He's meticulous in his job. He brings enthusiasm. I thought I was going to be lost when Paula Smith left. And when Ernie came on board, and this is no disrespect to Paula, he caught on. I didn't miss a beat. The man is genuinely, I consider him now a true friend, someone who is helpful to the citizens of the city of Cranston, and he takes his job seriously. I'll be quite honest, I'm hating to do this because I don't want to lose him. He's been phenomenal, but I also think I have the utmost confidence that he will do a terrific job in his new position. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Anyone on Zoom? If you want to speak, please raise your hand.
See no public comment on Zoom.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to close public hearings. So I guess we would need a motion. So we can start a motion in a second to start a discussion.
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the advice and consent of Ernest Tomaselli for the role of Community Development Director.
Second.
Discussion. Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you. Typically, would Director Moretti present about Mr. Thomas? That's how it's been in the past. So I'm just wondering before I ask questions or speak on anything. If you
To speak now?
Thank you very much. Good evening, Finance Committee members. It is my pleasure to introduce and request your recommendation for advice and consent to appoint Mr. Ernie Tomasiello as the next CDBG Director for the City of Cranston. Academically, Mr. Tomasiello holds a Bachelor's of Science degree from the prestigious, because I went to that college, prestigious liberal arts education institution of Providence College. Quite notably, Ernie has been a dedicated community leader, serving the youth of our city for more than 3 decades. Ernie also comes to us with broad business experience. In private industry, Ernie has a vast background in sales, where he demonstrated his skills in dealing successfully with the public. He is also proven in the field of marketing and being able to promote the products and programs of the businesses that he represented. And certainly his management abilities are proven, as he has managed from supply chain to multi-department personnel. These three career credentials of sales, marketing, and management align near perfectly to the ideal qualifications needed to promote and manage Cranston's CDBG program. Ernie possesses a tremendous amount of relevant experience in serving the city of Cranston. He is well known in the community for his 30-plus years of volunteer service, mentoring children and developing programs, most notably for the CLCF Youth Sports Hockey Association, where he served honorably as president for an entire decade. Ernie also served 8 years on the board of directors of CLCF Youth Sports, where he was president for 2 years. He also served on the board of the New England District of USA Hockey and a director for the Rhode Island Amateur Hockey Association's coaching clinic for a decade. The list goes on and on. Obviously, Ernie has dedicated a good amount of his life to our city. There's also a very critical and relevant role that Ernie served that directly involves the department that he is now being asked to lead. For 2 years, Ernie served as a board member of Cranston's Community Development Block Grant Program. In this role, Ernie had direct input and insight into the programs and operations of the department that he is about to assume. As you can see, Ernie Tomasiello is proven to be extremely qualified and capable for taking on the CBDG role. Ernie checks all the boxes to serve as the next CDBG director. The mayor can't think of a person with any better experience, qualifications, and character to be the next director of Cranston CDBG department. Cranston has a great opportunity to acquire the skills, talents, and character of such a qualified individual. Mayor Hopkins respectfully requests your recommendation for advice and consent of Mr. Tomasiello. Obviously, Mr. Tomasiello is here. Should you like to introduce him, have him speak, or have any questions for him? Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Tomasiello, would you like to address the council, the Finance Committee?
There it is. Good evening. Third time was the charm. Mr. Chairman, City Council members, I'd like to take this opportunity first off to thank you for this opportunity to appear before you, to present myself to you, answer any questions you might have. As you know, I have interacted with all of you over the last several months. And over the past several weeks, I've been lucky enough to transition over to the Community Development Department. What I have seen there is just remarkable. I am so impressed with the personnel there. I've made 5 visits, let's call them, along with Joe Logano, to different organizations that we obviously have to monitor for the federal government. And the work that they do for the citizens of Cranston is remarkable. I am excited for what I've seen. I'm excited to hopefully be appointed the director. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, why don't you stay there for a second? Does anybody have any questions directly for Mr. Tomasiello? Council President Paplaskas.
Yeah, I'll just ask one question for now, then I'll defer to my colleagues. Mr. Tomasiello, thank you for being here. I echo Councilman McCauley's, Councilman, almost give you a promotion. Former Councilman Director McCauley's statements. You were a breeze to work with in your role as Director of Constituent Affairs. And I received many phone calls after you dealt with the constituent, calling me back to let me know how much of a pleasure you were to work with or to help. So I just want to thank you on behalf of the residents that did work with you for the feedback that I got. for your work. So thank you for that. My question is pretty basic. Your time that you were on the board of directors for CDBG, how does that help you in your new role? And is there anything you learned from being on the board of directors that you can bring into this position as director if you are given the position?
The biggest thing I learned was the amount of help that is needed within the city. The organizations that came forward during our review process, there were just many of them, 40 or 50 of them, if I can approximately remember. But obviously, we couldn't help all of them. We do have a limited budget. We are very strictly monitored, and there are guidelines on what we can do with the money from HUD. But the experience there was enlightening and should be very helpful moving forward.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions directly for Mr. Tomasiello? Councilman Donegan?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, sir. Want to reiterate some of the comments that have been stated by my colleagues and Director McCauley. I've appreciated your work as the Constituent Affairs Director. You've been responsive, and I know you've helped myself and the rest of the council and constituents within the city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Regarding the position on the board of CDBG, what were the duties?
Basically, we were responsible for interviewing the applicants that were looking to receive money from us, evaluating their needs, coming up with the final figure. Obviously, they would ask for whatever they wanted to ask for. We couldn't accommodate it all the time, but we evaluated which ones we felt were more important, which one would benefit the most residents of Cranston, and then made that recommendation to, I believe at the time it was Buddy Croft, who was in charge of the program.
Thank you. As a member of the board, was there any involvement with handling any of the federal guidelines or regulations that are consistent with the department?
No.
How can you speak to any of your, you've got a long and great resume in sales and business. How do you think specifically will that translate to, some of the really strict parameters that the federal government has for these?
Well, I think it's basically going to call upon all of my experience. I always felt, I've always had the attitude, everyone is selling and everyone is being sold at some point. Right now, I'm trying to sell myself to you. So the federal government, what I've learned in the last 2.5 weeks, it's a very regimented, very strict set of guidelines that we've received or that we get from them. They give us an allocation of funds. They tell us exactly what percentage will go to certain groups. And then it's our responsibility to go out, recruit those groups, ask them to submit requests for money, and then see which ones fall in line and meet all the recommendations from HUD.
My last question for now. Given the census tracts that the department is, the financing is kind of geared towards, what do you think are some of the most important issues facing, the constituencies that this HUD funding is really kind of geared towards? And how do you think that the community development department as a whole can be a vehicle for creating equity within the city?
Yeah, well, it's the requirements and the guidelines are very strict. It's not going to be open to my personal opinions or anyone else's personal opinions. They're very strict. They tell us, for example, they give us a grant. 20% of that grant will go towards administration fees. Of the balance, 70% of that has to go to low to moderate income families. It's obviously based upon census that was taken recently. They give us maps, they give us all kinds of demographics, they give us everything. And it's just a matter that we have to go into this system, which is the IDIS system, go into their system, pull this information out. We have to come up with a one-year plan, obviously every year, but we also came up with a 5-year plan back in 2020. The 2020 was the groundwork for what we're going to do every year going up through 25. At that point, we'll have to make a new 5-year plan. But like I said, if the person that comes in, for example, we do house rehabilitation. If somebody needs a new roof, we can accommodate them and give them either a 0 interest or a 2% loan through the funds, as long as they meet all the criteria of HUD. If they make 1 cent over what HUD tells us, they're disqualified. We can't help them. And, you know, as you probably know, Joe Logano, who is a finance and compliance expert there, he's fantastic. I mean, he has his pulse on everything. Matter of fact, we're going to be monitored by the Boston office coming August 1st. So he's pulling all that paperwork together. They're going to want to see receipts and so forth. And, you know, if he doesn't have everything in line, which I'm sure he does, but obviously they can come down on us. They could say, hey, next year you're not going to get as big a grant. You're going to get a smaller grant, or vice versa. So
I will be forthcoming. The only hesitation I have is that there isn't, I think that there, correct me if I'm wrong, there's been a decent amount of turnover in the past couple of years, right, within that department.
I'm not positive. I know there was someone there who retired recently. Obviously, the previous director, Tim, was there for almost 2 years, and he came out of the security industry. And he always had said he would like to get back into it, and I guess he found an excellent opportunity, and he decided to make the move. That's what created the opening there.
The only hesitation I have is that with a lack, and I don't mean that as any disrespect whatsoever, the lack of experience in community development and with managing and handling funds and regulations such as the ones that are imposed, that years ago, the city of Cranston was slapped on the wrist. And I worry, not that I don't want to see that happen again. I'm not suggesting that that would happen. I think the lack of experience within the department is something that I have to consider when voting tonight and at the full council.
No, I understand that, and I do know that there were problems in the past. But from what I see in the short time that I'm there, from what I hear from the Boston rep, everything has been excellent the last few years, last several, you know. When I tell you that Joe has his finger on the pulse, he's remarkable. I've been to meet sub-recipients with him, and he'll read off, or from memory, he'll say, well, that pertains to, guideline B5073. And he'll just actually tell you what it is. So I have complete confidence in him. And I think that what he's taught me in the last couple of weeks alone, I don't foresee any problems in the future. Okay.
Councilwoman Marino.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Tomasiello.
Good evening.
I also want to thank you for all your work that you do with constituent affairs. Some questions I had for you this evening is with respect to the service on the CDBG board for 2 years. When was that actually?
I'm going
Roughly.
to say that was probably around 2008, 2010, in that area.
Was that simultaneous with your service as, was it the president of CLCF hockey? Is that what it was?
Yes,
Okay. It was at that same time frame.
that was all at the same time. And if it wasn't as president, I was also involved with the CLCF hockey program itself.
And with respect to your background, the resume that was presented, it mentioned that I see you have all of your history is in sales. Fair enough?
Yes,
Okay.
sales and marketing.
Okay. And I noticed on the resume, it said that you have been a sales associate or for a car dealership. It says 2016 to the present. Is that accurate? Are you still doing that?
No, obviously, that's what the case was when I submitted that resume a while back, but no. When the pandemic hit, everyone that was at that dealership was furloughed. After a year and a half, they came around with buyouts, and I decided to take the buyout.
Okay, I assumed as much, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to be certain on it. Thank you. And in terms of the CDBG job, you said that you have spent the last 2.5 weeks examining what that role would entail as a director. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me basically in your own words, what do you understand then that role as director to actually involve?
Well, I mean, obviously, I would be overseeing the personnel that is there. There are, I call them 2.5 people. There's 3 people there. One is a part-timer who's the inspector that goes out to inspect the jobs that we are funding. The other is a young lady that takes care of all the applications, closings, et cetera. And then obviously our compliance officer. And making sure that everything runs smoothly, that we all know exactly what's going on, what our responsibilities are, and keeping the department moving ahead.
And the compliance officer, who is that currently?
That's Joe Logano.
Okay. And his role is to, as you understand it, to make sure that that department is in compliance with the federal guidelines
Yes.
and regulations. Okay.
Exactly.
I know that we get the money for that department from federal funds. Do you know offhand what the current budget is for that department?
Last year, I believe our grant was approximately $1.6 million. And we do not get that all in one sum.
And a portion of that is allowed for administrative costs, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the department itself is self-sufficient.
I don't have any other direct questions for you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Councilwoman Manzulli.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Tomasello, as all my colleagues have said, I'd like to thank you for your work as a Constituent Affairs Director. I know that I came to you with a lot of issues and you always responded quickly, and I didn't even know how you had so much knowledge in such a short period of time. You hit the ground running. So to me, I'm confident that you will do the same thing in this role. My question for you is how you would put your marketing experience, what you would use from that to bring to this role to maybe market the CBDG funds better. I mean, we do a good job, but I think that a lot of times, we don't really discuss it too much in the council, and I don't hear too many of my constituents really talking about it or knowing what's available. So I think that that's, an opportunity for someone with marketing and sales experience to kind of make it a more visible program. Is that something that you've thought of?
Absolutely. I
Okay.
agree with you 100%. An interesting fact that I've realized over the last couple of weeks is I've had people approach me, say, hey, I saw your name in the paper, or I hear you're up for a new position. I tell them what it is. What do they do? People in the city don't know what we do out of the community development department. I think it really needs to be emphasized what we do to the public, whether it be through a Facebook, whether it be through mailings, or whether it be through whatever. But I think that we can help a lot more people if in fact we get the word out there that what is available. We get calls, for example, from people that say, hey, I understand that you can help me with the roof. I just put a roof on 3 weeks ago. Unfortunately, we can't help him because we can only finance projects in the future, not something he did in the past. But if he knew about it, he would have applied for it ahead of time and he was eligible. So I do think that getting the word out is a very big part of improving the department.
Is that something that you think you would utilize this council for, to be involved in and communicating with us the opportunities that you have so that we could communicate
Oh,
with
absolutely.
constituents as well? Because I think we
Absolutely.
have a great group for that,
Yeah.
you know, and people come to us needing help, or we have different ideas and we don't exactly know how to fund them. So sometimes I think, you know, there's money out there through different programs, and if we can just express it to our constituents, we could help a lot of people from, you know, federal funding without dipping
Right.
into our own
Right.
budget.
We can work together, and if all the regulations and all the requirements required by HUD are met, then yes, we could do it. I know you had questions on the pool. Could we do something like that? We'd have to sit down and look at it. Number one, obviously, it's not a historical site, because that position that brochure you sent me was for historical sites. Could it be made a historical site? Yes. But unfortunately, it then goes down to, well, who does it serve? That's what HUD is interested in. Unfortunately, we don't have, their cutoff point is 51%. 51% have to be low to moderate income families that it would serve. That's a citywide pool, so it wouldn't be able to be funded by anything through the CDBG grant, because it has to be 51%, and presently Cranston is only citywide 37% low to moderate income.
Excellent. I appreciate you getting that information for me. And thank you so much. And I will be supporting your advice and consent
Thank you.
today.
Does anyone else have any questions? Councilwoman Marino?
I have some questions for the administration, if that's when we're all set.
all right,
Thanks.
you-
Yep.
Mr. Tomasiello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine, do you have any questions?
My question is for the administration.
Before we go to the administration, I want to say that you, as far as I'm concerned, you've done a great job as the Constituent Affairs Director. I don't know if you keep score on who sends in the most complaints, but
I do.
I doubt that I'm not at least first or second, but, and you have been very responsive. And I've gotten a lot of responses from constituents that said, hey, who's this guy? He does a good job. He gets back to me. He answers the questions. So first of all, why is it that you want to move on to that position?
Basically, I think that the thing I loved about the constituent position is I loved coming in every day and helping people. Over my career, I've always found that the easiest thing to do was to help everybody achieve their goals, and you would achieve your goals. When I would come in, get a phone call, I have a pothole, I have this or that, I'm solving an issue that they have, some of their concern. When I took the position, I said to myself, I'm not going home in the evening unless I've called every person that has contacted me about an issue. Even if I didn't have an answer, I would call them and say, I have your question or your request. I don't have an answer today, but I'll call you back tomorrow. And it seemed to have worked.
So why do you want to leave that job?
Oh, because in helping the people, I realized that I can help so many more people in this position. It's really amazing what I've seen over the last couple of weeks going on, monitoring visits with Joe, and from the food kitchens to the YMCA to the Hope Center. It's just, I just feel it's a great opportunity.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we want Mr. McCauley to step to the podium, or do we want Mr. Moretti, Director Moretti, to step to the podium? Or do you both want to step to the podium? There seems to be a lot of questions for the administration, and we'll begin with Councilwoman Jermaine.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Dr. Moetti, Dr. Paul. My question is, so it's not something against Mr. Yellow, is mostly, I would like to have a clarification on how we hire. If we want to give everyone an opportunity, so is this position was putting on the website, everyone would have a fair shot to apply for it, or if it's an internal, if like I heard there's sometimes there's seniority, if there one person in the department who would like to apply for this job. So I feel like really a little bit uncomfortable. This has nothing to do with Mr. He's been doing a good job, but it's how we do it. I feel a little bit uncomfortable. So feel like he says he's been visiting, see how these things work. It's like he has the first, I don't think it's been happening all the time. When you have to hire for a job, you have the privilege to go first to see how it works and to have an idea, and then after to get the job. That's how I see it. So I'm asking how we have the procedure for hiring. And I would like to have a little clarification about that.
Sure. What you alluded to, there are a number of positions in the city that are civil service that requires the application, the advertisement and application process and the passing of examinations and the selection. Then there's certain positions that are administrative, and that since the beginning of time have been appointments of the mayor. This is one of those positions that's an appointment of the mayor. So we did not require to go outside. The mayor felt in his back seat that he had the most qualified person he was going to find, proven ability, proven background. He possesses, if you look to the requirements for this position, he possesses every qualification for this position. We don't want to create more qualifications that are necessary. That'd be great to have. And I think Mr. Tomasiello has those. But it says a minimum bachelor's degree in social services, liberal arts, or a related field. Certainly, in the liberal arts school that he went to with his business experience in his baccalaureate degree in
I'm sorry,
science.
Director, I'm not
I just want to say the
questioning his
qualifications were based-
qualifications. No,
the
no,
hiring
no,
process
I'm
was
okay with
based on
that.
You're asked a question.
Yeah.
It was based on the qualifications of the individual that qualified for the position. He was it says to be the point contact person for the administration during any federal audits. Check. Knowledge of HUD's requirements, rules, and regulations for all programs. Boy, that's a pretty tough person to find, and we're fortunate to have Mr. Tomasiello right here. Knowledge of simple interest and loan amortization necessary and familiarity with real estate transactions and MLS. That's a fairly basic thing. You can ask Mr. Tomasiello, but we felt comfortable he's knowledgeable of that. Everyone here has been testifying that he has strong interpersonal communication skills and ability to interact with a diverse population, which he's done in his job. Check. Must be available to attend CDBG educational classes both in and out of the state. We will make sure he's available to do so. Ability to manage monies and supervise employees and supervise all operations of the department. Given his experience in management, we believe he's certainly qualified to do so. So I think it would be overburdensome to create additional requirements for the position, but certainly I think Mr. Tomasiello has many qualities in addition to what's required. We hate to disqualify a perfectly qualified candidate. That's a mayoral appointment that has been in existence for decades and decades and decades. And I don't think we should be singling out an individual at this point in time to say he's not qualified for the position.
I don't think
I'm
that that's,
sorry,
Councilwoman
Director, I
Jermaine, Councilwoman Jermaine, I don't think that's what Councilwoman Jermaine was saying. She was just asking you what the procedure was on how you decide how you're going to hire a person. That's all. I think that's what I heard her ask.
That's why I want to
Oh,
stop you there, because I
Based on
think you didn't understand
qualification
my
and mayoral
question.
appointment, yes.
Because if I had a question about qualification, I will ask Mr. Masiello, and I read his resume. I don't have anything to say about him about qualification. That wasn't my point. My point, it was about the procedure of hiring.
Okay, the mayor
So
hired the person under the charter.
So what I said is he has the privilege. He was in a job in the city already. There's nothing to do with him. That's what I'm talking about, procedural thing. He has a job in the city. And after he has the opportunity to go to another job that is vacant, to spend a week, to look how things work. I said, this is a privilege. So that's why I say I don't feel comfortable if we do that for everybody
That
when
he's in
we
the
hire
acting-
someone
he's
in a
an acting
position. That's
capacity.
what I'm asking, nothing to do with
He's not
qualification.
experimenting.
Okay?
Right now, he's serving a necessary role in the acting capacity that we need to have someone there to have a minimum presence in the process until a person is officially hired into that position. So we're fortunate to have him and have him do that. But there is no insider deal going on here, and we're being fully transparent if that's an issue.
Through the chair, if I may, Councilwoman, I can answer your question also. When we reshuffled and took away that position to save the taxpayers and money, and we got rid of the executive secretary's position, we had to reshuffle. All of us took on more responsibilities, as I'm sure you're aware of. Director Tomasiello, through his efforts, through his work, he showed as Director of Constituent Affairs, we thought he would be an ideal candidate for that position when it opened up. So to answer your question, it was to fill a need there, and we're all actually assuming more responsibilities at the same pay that we've been at, and we're fine with that. We're not whining, but to answer your question, because of the job he did as Director of Constituent Affairs, we thought he would be a perfect person to take over for Director Sansi.
So thank you. So to clarify, that's mean based on the circumstances of the administration, as of now, we did it that way. Is that correct? So it's not, for me, I want to make sure in my head it's not something favoritism. It's not something that we just do for one person.
You are correct.
I will
Thank
defer
you.
to Director Macaulay for the rest of the evening. Have a great evening, people.
Okay, Councilwoman Jermaine, I'm going to let everyone speak once. Do you have any other questions?
No, I'm good right now. I'm clear. Thank you.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you. I'm just, I want to be clear on what just happened. I think that Councilwoman Jermaine just wanted to know the process for this type of position and how it was hired, and an appointment is just can be appointed, as far as I understand. So I think the best person to really answer the question would be the Director of Personnel, if he has anything to add.
Good evening. So the mayor has several appointments in the city, approximately 20 that are his direct appointments that don't go through a testing process, interview process, his direct appointments. Those appointments come in front of you for advice and consent. Civil service appointments go through a test. So Teamsters, laborers, police, fire, written test, oral examination, physical agility, they go through the whole process. So there's two distinct classifications, classified, unclassified. All of the mayor's department heads are unclassified and fill a role through advice and consent. There are some lower end, not non-director roles in the mayor's office that do not come in front of you. But for the most part, a role like this, a director's role, comes in front of the council for advice and consent. The mayor does not have to advertise. He doesn't have to reach out. If he feels he has someone internal that he knows can fill the role, meets the requirements, he's able to put that person forward, and it's up to the council to say, yes or no, we agree.
Does anyone else have questions for the administration? Council President
I don't have a
Pavlovskis?
question. I just wanted to say we're kind of off the beaten path a little bit on Mr. Tomasiello, so just want to stay on the question at hand.
All right, so
Thank
we want to keep in mind that we want to try and finish this up within 15 minutes, and we want to stay on task. Anybody else have any questions for the administration? Councilwoman Marino.
Thank you. My questions this evening for the administration with respect to this position is that what is the current budgeted amount of salary for that position? That's one question.
Councilwoman, I believe it's federally funded. We don't, it doesn't come out of the city budget. I believe it's around $70,000. Right around there. I apologize. I don't have a definitive number to give you, but it is all funded through the federal grant.
Correct. Yep. That's part of the administrative cost, which I understand, but I still wanted to know what it was budgeted for. And I was curious as to whether or not with this appointment, the administration was seeking to increase the salary for that position.
That no, we are leaving that as is. There is no increase involved. I'll stand corrected if Director of Personnel, am I correct, sir?
That- Because I'd like to see that money go back to the community rather than to a salary, particularly if it's a big if this person, Mr. Tomasello obtains this position. In terms of the experience with the federal guidelines and regulations, I understood it to be that, and even according to the resume, Mr. Tomasiello doesn't have that experience firsthand. While he's sat on the board, he didn't have that role on the board of CDBG did not involve the federal funding. And his prior work experience did not involve the federal funding. Is that correct?
Again, I'll revert back to what Chief of Staff Moretti said, that he did check off all the boxes as far as what the job description required. As far as his knowledge of CB, the CB grant program, I believe he's got a firm knowledge, and it's growing each and every day. I don't think there's a candidate out there, quite honestly, Councilwoman, that would do this for $70,000 that would have that kind of any more experience than Director Tomasiello.
Well, I can tell you this, that if the 20% of the funds allowed for a salary greater than $70,000 and that candidate had the experience with CDBG funding and the federal regulations and guidance and HUD, then I wouldn't have an objection to perhaps raising the salary. But here we're taking a chance. If we do this on someone who doesn't have that experience, I can't stress enough, I take no pleasure in this. I know the job market just across the board is tough, but this is a vital role with a lot of money at stake. And I'm not convinced that his experience is going to fit the bill. So I'm a little I'm on the fence. Just being candid, I'm on the fence. Thanks.
I understand, and with all due respect, I have the utmost confidence that this gentleman will do a superb job for the city of Cranston, overseeing this program for our great city. I really do. And gee, I just think he's gonna flourish in this position, Councilwoman. I disagree. I have the confidence.
Councilwoman Marino, you have any other question?
I'm all set. Thanks.
Councilman Riley?
Yes, Director. So just a quick question. In comparison to his predecessor, Mr. Sanzi, what if any CBDG experience did he have when he was appointed?
No, none.
Did he sit on the CBDG board?
He did not.
But Mr. Tomasiello did.
He did.
And if I recollect, Mr. Sanzi was unanimously appointed
That's correct.
and unanimously appointed by these exact members?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Point of order to the chair of the committee, if I may. While I would like to get into the details of the former director's resume with respect to his qualifications for this job, we would be violating Open Meetings Act and not giving him the right to present himself before we have that discussion. So I will say that there's another side to that coin with respect to why he was appointed to that position, but it unfortunately cannot be discussed this evening. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions for the administration in reference to Mr. Tomasiello's advice and consent? Councilwoman Manzulli.
Thank you. To whoever from the administration wants to answer this question. If for whatever reason, Mr. Tomasiello is appointed and shows that he is not best suited for this position, it is within, the rights of the director of personnel, who has the ability to say, we're going to look for someone new. This is not working out. This is not a position in which you're in it for the next 2 years guaranteed, correct?
That's correct. That's the mayor's call. If Mr. Tomasiello goes in that role full-time, if he passes your advice and consent, he goes in that role, things aren't working out, the money's being mismanaged, things aren't going the right way, the mayor can say, okay, you're terminated tomorrow. Fully at-will employee. The mayor has that ability with every director's position. That's why it's crucial that you allow the mayor to put people in positions that he feel can do the job. Give them the opportunity. If they can't do the job on behalf of the mayor is going to be the first one to get rid of them. He's not going to need anyone from the council to tell him that this person is not doing the job, whether it's finance director, DPW director, CDB director. These are all representations of the mayor. He does not want to make the city or himself look bad. Give him the opportunity. If he doesn't do the job, we will hold him accountable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to finish up by asking you a few questions. On June 26th, I sent an email to Director Moretti and Director Perillo asking for a job description of the position we are discussing right now. And it never came. And, I'm not going to say that it's not partially my fault that I didn't re-ask for it, but I never got the job description because I wanted to check the boxes. And so I made some phone calls when I looked at the resume and I was having trouble checking the boxes that I wanted to check. Okay. And maybe if I had the job description, it might have been a little easier, but based on the fact that I was not satisfied with the phone calls I made and the questions I asked and the answers I got from people, I am not going to be able to support voting in favor of this position tonight based on the fact that I was not able to check the boxes that I wanted to check. And it's nothing personal. I'm not taking any pleasure in this, but the bottom line is, I know that I'm doing the right thing because I wasn't able to check the boxes that I wanted to check. Thank you. Okay. I'd like to finish up now.
If I can respond, I did send the job description to Rosalba. I don't know, maybe it never got to you, but I did send it off. And I just think we're trending in the wrong direction. I know we're trying to get good qualified people to work for the city, but right now I don't feel the council has my back in trying to do that. I really don't. If we're going to reject every person that we bring in front of you, how am I going to get anyone to come here? We're one of the lowest paid cities in the state. We have a qualified person here who's showed his commitment to the city over the last 35 years of volunteer work. And now we're giving him the opportunity to work for the city that he's been here his whole life. And we're going to say no because of a job description? I just don't understand that. Thank you.
Chair.
Council
I'm
President.
I don't know how much longer you want discussion to go. Seems like we went around the room a couple of times. I'll make a motion to move the question if we're not going to wrap it up soon.
Second.
I'll make a motion to move the question.
Second.
Any discussion? Rose, please take a roll.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Marino,
No.
Councilman Donegan, Council Vice President Ferry,
No.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Pardon?
Rose was 3-3.
It's 3 to
Okay.
3.
So,
Floor is
Council
yours.
Vodecki, please tell me what happens next. Okay.
Discussion continues.
I asked everyone that they would only be able to speak once, and I'm going to stick with that. I asked everyone that they would only be able to speak once. I'm going to stick with that.
Can I ask a legal question to legal through the chair?
Council Vodecki.
Mr. Vodecki, I'm a little unclear. If everyone can only speak once, then why we couldn't move the question, which would end discussion? So if discussion is still open, then everyone should be allowed to continue speaking. I think that's,
I think anyone
the-
that hasn't spoken would be able to speak
but
at
you
this
don't
time.
make the rules, as far as I understand. So that's why I'm asking legal.
Well, the chair can control with that limitation on all of the members. That's up to the chair. If he wants people to speak once, twice, or 3 times, that's up to him. The motion was made to move the question. It failed. So we're basically back where we were prior to the motion being made. So that's, I believe, within the prerogative of the chairman.
Does anyone that has not spoken on this matter like to speak at this time? Councilwoman Vargas.
Thank you. Well, there's no one asked a question, so at this point, I might as well not even ask the question. So it's unfortunate that I do not serve on I'm not a member of the Finance Committee, so I am not able to vote, but either way, I have a question and the administration is not here. But to the Director of HR, I'm just a little bothered first and foremost that the administration is just walking out this evening. I'll be quite honest with you right now. That has been extremely disrespectful. I don't think, and I could be wrong, I've ever even walked out of a meeting because I don't get something my way at all, or when we agree or disagree. And I just want to make sure that that is a slap to each, at least to me it is. I don't want to speak for anyone. And I find that to be very, very unprofessional before us. I just want to be as clear as possible because we are all professional folks here and we should be able to handle agreements or disagreements, whether it's within our own party or not. My question to the director, Director Perillo, thank you for staying here actually and bearing with us. I really appreciate that, really do. Really appreciate your professionalism. I have to say, I just want to ask, in the event, clear this failed, any possible projects that are in the line of, that are in the timeline, what happens at that point to any current projects that are in the works relative to CDBG? Who would then handle, I guess, those projects that are being worked on or possible projects that have yet to be executed, but with a director, they'd either have some sort of a project lead or not. So what does happen with any current or future projects? In this
I-
case, it's
I
not.
can't speak to exactly what would happen, but I would say that everything's on hold. Without someone there as a point person, especially with the feds coming in August 1st, we're not going to be able to present the federal government who our director is. That's going to be a problem for us. It's going to be a problem for our grant going forward. It's going to be a problem for any of our projects going forward. We need a point person. Joe Lagan is great at what he does in compliance. Laura Jean is great at taking applications and doing closings. Ray is great at his role, but we need someone steering the ship. Without someone steering the ship stops. And I think we're going to be jeopardizing future money for the city. Truthfully.
Thank you. So then at that point, if the federal government, as you mentioned, is coming in a few weeks, are they're analyzing or doing some sort of, I would say, audit on any funding that we've used from CDBG in terms of the city within the last few months, fiscal year, or?
I don't know the parameters. I don't know what the parameters are of the audit.
On the feds coming in August, the purpose of it?
I don't know.
Okay, so
I don't
were
know
we,
if it's a periodic audit or they're coming here for a particular reason. I don't know enough about that department.
okay, so did we receive notice from the feds just saying that they were going to be coming into
Yes,
the
I
building?
believe for sure, we received a notice.
Okay, and currently, so if we decide also not to move forward because there is a vacancy within that position, is there some sort of penalty that the federal government would then give the city? Would we have some sort of sanction, I guess?
I don't know. I can't give you an answer on that. I don't know the parameters well enough to say whether or not we're jeopardizing. But I would think that if we don't have someone leading the ship, it's not going to look favorable to us with the feds going forward. That's all I can say. I don't know what they could do. I don't know what the penalties would be. I'm not familiar with the federal regulations.
Fair enough. Thank you.
I do believe at this time everyone has spoken. Rose, please take a vote.
Chair, just to clarify, a yes is to approve the advice and consent, a no is to not approve.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Manzulli,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Council Vice President Ferry,
No.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
I guess there's nothing else on the agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Public Works meeting will start in 5 minutes, please. All right, if everyone could please be seated. Good evening, everyone. It's Thursday, July 14th, 6:12 PM. I'd like to call the Public Works Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilman Campiano, Councilman Riley,
Yes. Present.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Present.
Councilwoman Zuli,
Present.
Councilwoman Marino,
Present.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Present.
Council President Paplaskas.
Present.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the June 16th meeting.
So moved.
And, oh, excuse me, the approval of May 17th and June 16th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Rose, please take a vote.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Zuli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, we have no committee business matters carried over. I'd like to open up public hearings. Is there anyone here in council chambers or on Zoom that would like to speak on any matters on the docket tonight in reference to Public Works?
I see no public comment on Zoom.
Yes, sir. If you could press the button to make sure the green light is on. And then please state your name and address for the record.
How's that? Better?
That's good.
Okay. My name is Gerard Bogosian. I live at 1 Lowell Street in the city. The house is addressed at 1 Lowell Street, but it's on the corner of Harman Avenue and Lowell Street, directly across the street from the schoolyard of the Stadium Elementary School on Harman Avenue. I'd like to just say a few things about what's on the docket in regards to the Harman Avenue speed issue. First and foremost, let me introduce myself. I'm a firefighter, work in the fire department, not in the city. I've been a paramedic for 25 years, 20 years in Warwick, and I'm currently the Deputy Chief of Emergency Medical Services in the city of Warwick, the Rescue Division. So I'm very familiar, without getting into it, what speed on roadways cause. The speed on that roadway is extremely excessive. The means to deter speed on that road is extremely insufficient. It's a lively neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood. It's a neighborhood where you see families walking their dogs with their children. When the weather gets a little better, you see elderly who are out there with a chance to get some exercise, okay? The speed on that road, it's, for all intents and purposes, a drag strip. It gets worse depending on the weekends because it is a major cut through between Reservoir Avenue and the Cranston Parkade. Throughout the past 20 plus years or so, since the parkade was built in 2001, the speed on that road and the traffic in that neighborhood has exponentially increased by the year. I've lived at the address that I stated, 1 Lowell Street, for almost 50 years. My entire life. My family came over from Armenia. My great-grandmother built that home. She had 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. She owned a majority of the neighborhood. When any of her children decided they were going to have families and start families, she gave a parcel of land to. Out of the 6 children, 4 of us, or for the 4 homes, are still in that neighborhood sharing property lines. In 2010, I'm handy, so I decided to update my house and do a lot of exterior work. shortly in September after school started and got out for the day. A friend of mine that was helping me work on the home, we actually had to subdue a speeder who was intoxicated, who destroyed a $20,000 federal radar trailer from the Cranston Police Department. Okay, and it literally was right after school got out in September when school started in session for the year. My whole angle throughout the years, because I've complained many times to John throughout the years, is having a proactive approach. When you have a reactive approach, there's already something that's happened. Okay, that being said, I know what happens with reactive situations. Okay, I've been in plenty of situations at work that are devastating, completely avoidable sometimes. And I think that the speed humps that are currently on Harman Avenue, right where the school is, are completely inefficient. The profile of them needs to be much higher. There's speed humps that probably need to be put in addition to the ones that are there. There's never been any traffic studies on that roadway that I can recall, or that's any public information in regards to the traffic that has been exponentially increased through the years because of that Cranston Parkade. If one of you on any given day decided to sit in the schoolyard and watch the traffic, we had a meeting with John last week, and it's unbelievable. It is only a matter of time before somebody gets hit by a car or something terrible happens. I'm telling you, I've lived there my entire life. And between myself at 1 Lowell Street on the corner of Lowell and Harman, and my cousin who lives next door at 104 Harman, we are the only 2 houses on the Harman Avenue side of the building. The address side on Crescent Avenue, there's probably 10 homes. I just really want everybody to really think about the severity, the ramifications of the speed on that road, with really such a simple request to look into it. That's all, and do something about it. It is a school. I went to that school when I was a kid. So when I was a kid, we could play wiffle ball literally in Harman Avenue, and there was no traffic at all. So that's really all I have to say tonight in regards to that matter. So I hope you take everything that I say into consideration.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Is there anyone else in council chambers that would like to speak on any matter on the Public Works docket? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak on any matters on the Public Works docket?
I see no public comment.
At this time, I'd like to close public hearings. Next, we have new matters before the committee. We have 3 different poll requests. I would like to have a motion if we could just vote on these all at once.
I'll make a motion to hear the poll location request for Crescent Ave, Caleb Street, and Bryant Road as a block.
Second.
Rose, please take a vote.
Councilman Riley?
Yes.
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 Yes, and I'll make a motion to approve the block for the request for national bid poll locations. Crescent Ave, Caleb Street, Bryant Road.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Donegan.
Thank you, Chairman. Through the chairman to the clerk, are residents do they receive notification about these proposed?
No.
Well, I'll just, the one in particular on here, Crescent Ave, the gentleman at 77 Crescent, we were talking last night, he's been lobbying company for, he said, the better part of 20 years to get this moved. So he's going to be very happy when it is quite literally the middle of his driveway on the sidewalk. So they're going to be, the Jones are going to be very happy. So please approve this.
Any other discussion on any of the three utility poles being requested tonight? I agree with Councilman Donegan. Okay, Rose, please take a vote.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Okay, next we have an agreement by and between the State of Rhode Island Department of Transportation and the City of Cranston for the gratis transfer for streetlight facilities to the DOT. And I'm hoping that our Director of Public Works would be here to explain to us exactly what that is. And we welcome you tonight, sir.
Good evening, thank you. DOT has finally gotten around to taking the last thing on state roadways. They maintain the state roadways, they plow them, they sweep them, but for years, communities have had to install, repair, and pay for the streetlights on state roadways. The legislature has seen fit that they've changed that, and DOT has come to Cranston. The solicitor has reviewed it, has prepared the documents required by DOT. Basically, what this will do is it'll transfer approximately 628 streetlights from our responsibility to the state. We'll no longer have to maintain them. We'll no longer have to pay the electricity. These are also, because they are on state roads, are probably the highest number of poles that get hit and have to be replaced. So the maintenance actually is, even though the new poles, the new lights, and they're all LED, which was a requirement of the agreement that they be all new LEDs. We're looking at a potential savings of about $65,000 a year.
Does anyone have any questions for the Director?
I'll just make a motion to approve this agreement. And I guess, Director, you answered my question on how much it was going to save the city, so thank you.
It's an estimate because, again, I don't know how many poles are going to get hit and the lights are going to come down, but just the cost that we have in the maintenance agreement and the proportionate electrical cost, about $65,000.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is the Oakland Cemetery, which has been so graciously in the news lately. The request dated June 7, 2022 from GRA on behalf of the Rhode Island Public Transit Authority to conduct work at or near to the Oakland Cemetery. Are you in a position to explain to us what's going on here, Director?
Actually, no, this is not a public works matter. This is before the planning commission, and the letter was actually copied to the planning department. Public works has nothing to do with this particular item.
I might be able to fill you in a little bit on this. This came before us at the last council meeting. So we sat in here out of abundance of caution just to be heard. I don't think there's any work going on in the cemetery. It's near it. I think Director Pizzullo does know more about it than I do. So we can defer to Director Pizzullo to give us the cliff notes on it.
Director Basula, could you please do that?
Certainly. So RIPTA is constructing a fairly modern recharging station at their turnaround right on, I'm sorry, I can't remember the street, right on Broad Street. And can you hear me? I'm sorry. Okay. So the whole issue revolves around their proximity to the cemetery. So RIPTA consulted with Rhode Island HBHC, as well as I got a letter from GRA, which is the company that does the analysis on historic assets. And there's no issue. There's no issue with building within the 25-foot buffer of the cemetery. So we've seen this before, like at the fountains at Chapel View, but this is a fairly simple housekeeping matter at this point. It's it's been vetted and there's no issues. So staff recommends just approving.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the request from Ripta.
Second.
Discussion? Councilwoman Vargas?
Yes, thank you. This question is actually to Director Pizzullo. Director, do you happen to know by any chance, I know that on the actual document that was provided to us, it does state obviously that what they're going to be doing as far as asphalt parking lot and so forth. There's a fence right on that same property that abuts the cemetery and the actual lot.
Yes.
That fence, I'm being told, belongs to that lot, which folks are asking me with this charging station plan being worked on, whether or not they are going to put the entire new fence between the cemetery and this actual property, because I'm being told it's not cemetery. The fence does not belong to the cemetery. The fence belongs to this actual lot, which is now the church, and I'm assuming leasing out some space to the to RIPTA, of which hence the reason why they're doing this charging station, if I'm not.
So your question's about the fence. Who owns the
It's
fence?
yeah,
Oh, there's a lot.
because I saw it in the plans, but I didn't see the fence on there.
We reviewed this last week at DPR. I don't recall the fence issue. If we had discussed this earlier, I could have pulled out the plans and gotten you an answer for that, but I just don't know off the top of my head.
We can talk offline. Does that
That's
work out?
totally
Because I'm
fine.
just curious.
The DPR approval is complete.
Oh,
and-
someone's actually here, I think from maybe what, RIPTA maybe?
I think he'd be able to give.
Would you mind stepping forward to answer the question?
Thank you, Director Pizzol.
See, I'm glad I sent this back to committee. A lot of questions.
You thought this meeting was only going to take 10 minutes. Sir, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, my name is Colby Owen. I live in Providence at 159 Irving Ave. And I'm a representative from GRA, a division of GM2, who's doing the engineering for this project on behalf of RIPTA. And as to your question about the fence is technically on RIPTA's property and is being reinstalled exactly all along the property, just the way it is. So,
Straight through or the L shape? The L abuts now a neighbor, a house, a residential area
Yeah.
that you're not
the
replacing because
fence
that's,
will be replaced all exactly where it is currently. It just has to get removed to actually perform the work, but it will be replaced in kind.
okay. And I apologize for asking you a million questions, but I did get calls about this afternoon. And one of them was also the lighting in terms of, because there's a house right next to it. There's houses right behind it. How much of that will actually interfere? The neighbors did not know that this was happening. I'm not sure whether there was notice that was sent to the surrounding neighbors, but they happened to get wind of it today.
I would defer to the planning department as far as notice, but I believe notice either was or will be sent out as part of the planning department approval process, which is underway. And as far as the lighting, we're looking into that. They're kind of going, trying to figure out the exact lighting, but it shouldn't interfere. Currently, the plans are to put lights only on the center island, if you've seen the plans. So there shouldn't really be lighting impacts on the neighboring properties.
Thank you. And then do you already know the hours as which this construction is going to start kicking off at?
As far as like work hours,
Correct.
I'm not sure. I would assume just during the day. I don't anticipate night work. Just like
do-
7 to 5, something like that.
All right, would you be able to give me your contact information?
Sure.
So that way, again, I know this was on our website, and there was a couple of meetings that took place on this as well, even on the
course, yeah.
on-site as well. I was not able to go that day to the on-site actual meeting that morning, but I did mention that to some of the residents that live in the street right behind it.
Yep.
They were unaware of it, whether or not they did get notice. I'm not sure if I assume they got notice. But they were reaching out today. So if I can get your contact on this, I'm all in favor of, supporting RIPTA and their transportation, particularly now more than ever when the cost of living, everything's going up. But I also want to make sure that as this project, which I do support, also is done without interrupting much. I know there's might be, a lot of drilling and whatnot. But even the lighting and a lot, as far as that goes, or the fence was definitely one of the questions that I had. So if you don't mind giving me your contact information, it might be on that, on this letter, or if not.
I'm not sure if it is.
All right, so do you have a
follow
card?
up with you afterwards, if that's all right.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Rose, could you please take a vote?
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Okay, we have 3 council communications on here. They are all Councilman Donegan. The first is speeding on Harman Avenue. Councilman Donegan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. One, I appreciate the folks here from Harman and Crescent and Fiat that are here this evening. In the past, when discussing this issue, it typically is, kind of greater enforcement, police patrol who have been, I've personally patrols there, whether it's on West or down on Marlboro or here and there. But I think that with a new DPW director here with us in the city, it may be a opportunity to take a different approach, a more proactive approach, and a fresh look at the situation here on Harman Avenue this evening that hopefully could be transferable to, Crescent and the surrounding area. So, I can just say from having lived around the corner and, frequently walking the dog down, people fly, and the 2 speed bumps that are there, they don't do anything. It's almost as if people see them, they're like, oh, let me see how I can get off these. They just don't do enough. So I'm hoping that we can leverage the expertise of our traffic department, our public works department, in collaboration with residents and the school department, to try and figure out what we can do to increase safety right there, reduce the speeding.
Director, would you mind stepping up to the microphone? If you wanted to weigh in on here or maybe take a few questions, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. By all means, I don't think that this would be an in-house project. I think that we would have to seek funding and get a traffic calming expert. We did have conversations with the State Traffic Commission as recently as this week. This roadway was, from my research, a 2012 Safe Routes to School project, which was done in conjunction with the Department of Transportation and the State Traffic Commission. The height of those speed bumps, the speed tables, actually, they're not speed humps, they're speed tables, was based upon the approved design that was appropriate. Issues regarding bump outs, speed tables, they all have to be evaluated with the potential introduction of a hazard. When we talk about drunk drivers, a speed hump or this drunk driver that took out the sign, the police sign, these are mostly enforcement issues. These are mostly bad behavior. If you have a speed bump or you have a bump out at an intersection, that drunk driver is still going to get in an accident. That drunk driver may try to avoid it. The speed bumps that they've put in Providence have actually caused more accidents because people cross the double yellow to avoid them at high speed. So we're introducing hazards. That's why you need, our traffic engineer has a lot on his plate and is dealing with issues of the crosswalks. Something like this, you'd need some outside expertise. It's not that I'm looking to say that it shouldn't be done. If it's within the council's desire to do that and the administration has the money, by all means, there are traffic calming experts. You would need to get police and fire involved because that's always a an issue. I can speak from the Public Works point of view. Introduction of a bunch of speed bumps does affect plowing. It does affect the condition of the roadway, even the temporary ones. So it would have to be a group. It would have to be the councilman, have to be the residents, but we need police and fire as well.
In your time as a public works person, what is the best approach that the neighbors and Councilman Donegan should take to start this process?
If there is a particular time of day or a particular day of the week that they see these things, just like a few years ago when the residents got involved and took pictures of someone feeding the rodents, any information they can give to the police department that it's a Friday night, that it's Saturdays between 6 p.m., 8 p.m. and midnight, anything they can give for enforcement. That's what the State Traffic Commission is telling me. Either it's police enforcement or it's the speed cameras. If you had the speed cameras on the sidewalks that give the tickets when somebody is going 31 in a 25-mile, I hate to admit it, but I get whacked going one way and another on Newport Avenue in Pawtucket, not realize I was going 31. That's 24/7, those cameras that give out the tickets. So it's an enforcement thing, and that gets even the people in the neighborhood. There are a lot of people in neighborhoods that will go the 31 and they don't care about them. It's the other people. It's always the other people. So it would be if they could provide that information to the police department so that either the police were there when it's habitual or some other enforcement. The other thing we could do, again, we've got it in a couple of locations, Broad Street and Pontiac Avenue, where you have the sign that flashes if you're going below 25 miles an hour. That kind of gives you a reminder, hey, you're going too fast. Unfortunately, it's not enforcement. It doesn't give you a ticket, and usually 10 feet after you've passed it, you're picking up your speed again. But that is another option, and that usually is about $10,000 for 2 signs.
Councilwoman Manzulli, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. And I don't know who could remind me of this, but the last DPW director, I believe he did not want us asking for speed bumps, correct? He didn't consider a traffic calming device. So are you saying you're in agreement with that? That you wouldn't want, that the speed bumps do not actually solve the problem, but will create more problems?
I do not believe speed bumps are an answer to speeding. I think they do incur other accidents. If somebody's going over it too fast, they're going to lose control. It affects public safety response, and it is a real problem for public works for plowing and maintaining the roadway.
And Director, do you happen to have any knowledge in speaking to other cities, whether they're finding success with the speed cameras? I worked in Pawtucket all spring, and I did get dinged going through a school zone for going 5 miles over. So I'm wondering how you feel about that as a director, as a mechanism to reduce speed.
I think they're highly effective, and it wasn't just from my personal experience in Pawtucket. It was also talking to the State Traffic Commission, which in Rhode Island is the highest. And we're talking to them this week about traffic calming methods within school zones. And they were very specific that the best tool is enforcement, either the police officer or the cameras.
Okay, I know that I have just read that some people oppose that mechanism for traffic calming because the company that puts up the camera does take a significant cut of the tickets. Did you find that in your discussion that was something people brought up? People don't love cameras kind of in general. So I personally think when I get a ticket, I'm definitely going to slow down. So that's just my opinion. So I'm just wondering the feel that you got in speaking to this traffic commission and other cities.
I think the bigger issue would be whether or not it's allowed in Cranston through the police department union, because there are certain requirements. I'm not qualified or able to speak on that, but I think the bigger issue for the cameras would be more whether or not it's allowed by the contract versus whether or not you have to have an outside company use monitoring it and installing it.
So next steps, if that's something that we wanted to pursue as a council, would that be to bring in the police department?
It sounds like if that's something that you have an interest in, I think that would be a discussion with them as to whether or not they have sufficient manpower to be there, or if if the cameras are an option.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Marino.
Thank you. The issue of speeding in that area, thank you, Director Bernardo, for your insight on that issue, but I think my fellow council members will agree, and the administration as well. I was going to mention that the police department is very responsive to these types of concerns once they're aware of it, and it's not going to be, you know, an entire fix, but to your point, enforcement is an issue. And if the police are able to have a presence, I mean, people have already, you know, stated, this gentleman stated tonight, and I know I heard from someone in that area as well, that it's, you know, weekends, or maybe this is just when people notice it more, but in the afternoons, and that could be a bit of a deterrent, while in the meantime, that we're looking at other options for it. There are also portable speed bumps. I know that there are different costs, but, you know, and I don't pretend to be not an expert in that area, but that's something maybe we can explore too, is the temporary setting as a deterrent.
The temporary speed bumps would be something I would try to fight you tooth and nail with, because they destroy the pavement. They have to be nailed in, and that's exactly what kills our roadways. We're spending a lot of money trying to upgrade the level of service for our roadways. And as soon as you break the pavement, introduce water infiltration. So temporary speed bumps would be the last thing that I would recommend.
I guess maybe we can explore it further. I thought the prior director was in favor of those, but it was just expense. But, you know, I guess everything's relative. Thanks.
Sir, we already closed public hearings. I'm sorry, we're not be able to open up public hearings again. If I open up public hearings, then I have to let everyone speak. I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to reopen public hearing.
Gonna,
Rose, please take a vote.
I'm sorry, was there a second?
yes, I can.
Second.
Councilman Riley?
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Marino?
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry?
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas?
So you may step forward. You can have up to 3 minutes, please. You need to state your name and address for the record. Make sure the green light is on.
Yep, I appreciate your time, and I'm sorry I was late. My name is Ed Generali. I live at 75 Harman Ave. Lived there for 34 years. I actually bought the property from the school department when I built it there. There are the speed, like Mr. Bernardo said, in front of my house is the speed table on one end, right in front of my house, 75 Harman.
Could you speak right into the microphone,
And then
please?
there's another speed table that's more towards the intersection down further, but there's only 2 of them. John invited us to walk that area, and we went to that area, and I brought to his attention that once you hit the speed table at my property, you speed up to the crosswalk where the children are. So whoever looked at it in the way of timing or needs to relook at it, where we said that you need 2 more speed tables between those 2 areas that won't interfere with the plowing. I agree also with you about speed cameras. I work in East Providence, and I usually cut through to Pawtucket Ave and go through that area, and I got 2 tickets and I paid my money. And I don't go that way anymore. All right, so since 2012, I think you said that was put in. Since then, the Garfield Ave Shopping Plaza is just a highly trafficked area, and a lot of people come through that area to get to that area. So I would be in favor of speed cameras in that area. I think it would deter that, as well as 2 more speed tables. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councilman Donegan.
Thank you. And while we're here it's not docket, so I won't mention it. But thank you, Director. Maybe it would set up a meeting or a time at the availability of the administration, yourself, someone from police and traffic, that we could meet with residents at this, talk about it, think it through, and try and find a solution.
Councilwoman Jermaine.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Regarding this issue of speeding, so that's something I brought more often in the committee. Actually, I have an ordinance coming up later in the ordinance committee about speeding, how we can take proactive measure to prevent fatalities in our city. So from what I understand, Director, so you are in favor of having speed camera installed to deter the speeding in the city. Is that correct?
We're speaking specifically on Harman Avenue right now.
All I was saying was that rodents, speeding, and litter are a human behavior thing. Signs, trash, you need to change the human behavior. How you choose and how the administration chooses to change human behavior, whether you want to have a campaign on TV, whether you want to have more police give tickets, but until you change human behavior, and it's been my experience based upon the information that I received from the state's traffic commission, that enforcement is the best deterrent, and that if it's not the physical presence of a police officer to give the ticket, the second best is the speed cameras, because they also give the ticket. And when you hit somebody in the wallet with a ticket, that gets their attention, that changes their behavior. Whether, my personal recommendation is that we need to change people's behavior on several of these things. I'd leave how to a higher authority than me.
Thank you so much. So because I had last week, I have a meeting with several residents in Colonial Street, and they brought up this speed camera. So that's something I spoke last week with several residents in Colonial Ave. So that's something I would be willing to be part of this conversation moving forward about the speed camera. Council Donegan and Vice President Ferry, I would love to see how we can come up together working with that.
Thank you. Next. No, I have to let this next person talk.
So there's somebody else that wants to come up for public comment? Yeah.
No, I need to close Public Works at this time. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
Mr. Chairman, if the floor has been opened for another member of the public, out of an abundance of caution, the floor has been reopened for public comment. I would recommend that the committee allow additional speakers in the public comment section to speak.
Mr. Chair, I agree with Attorney Angel, but I noticed the gentleman who's already spoken is coming up for the second time. I would just, as caution, just say that it's probably not wise to let people speak multiple times on this.
I at this time am going to agree with Councilman Videcchia, Council Videcchia. I'm sorry, but I just can't let people speak a second time. Okay. And I will let this gentleman speak that has not spoken, and you can have up to 3 minutes, please.
My name is Mike Mangasarian. I live at
Sir, you need to, would you mind removing your mask just to speak? There's no one around you.
Mike. Yeah. I don't think it's-
Mic check 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2.
Hold on, he's going to turn it up a little bit.
We're having a little technical difficulties this evening. I'll say the planning commission broke the microphones last night, Tuesday night.
Mic check 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Mic check 1, 1, 2. Mic check 1, 1, 2.
Just to hold the button.
Just hold it down while you speak. The green light should turn on.
Oh, okay. My name is Mike Mangasarian, and I live at 118 Harman. And that is my driveway, faces the driveway. If you drive out of the school driveway, you can drive right into mine. So I've got a lot of information because I've been there. I was born there more than 60 years ago, and I've lived at the same residence. I can tell you what the trends are every day, and I can volunteer something for you if it's feasible. And when Mr. Donegan announced this meeting, Saturday, I got the email, and in 10 minutes, I took videos of about 4 people that went right through the stop sign, didn't slow down for the speed bump, which is all ineffective. The speed bump is the major problem because it doesn't do damage to the car. People obviously don't care about the law, but they care about the car. The Roger Williams Park speed bumps, I can tell you that they are avoided in every capacity because they damage cars. People are more concerned with their personal property than the law. And I've witnessed it every day. I don't even pay attention anymore because I could take videos, go to the police station, and in about 30 minutes, give them enough information with the license plates to give tickets. If that's what you would like, I'd be happy to volunteer my time to do that. All I need is 3 days, 20 minutes each day, and I could give you all the people that violate this. I have them with me right now to show you how people don't care about the stop sign and they don't care about the speed bump. And what surprised me, it's not just Harman Avenue. They come right up Marble Street, don't even slow down. This is in the morning when they're on their way to work. The evening is even worse because they're doing 55 miles an hour and they don't even slow down for the stop sign. All of these tools, which are supposed to help, don't do anything. But if you damage their car, they're going to avoid it because my grandmother used to live in Edgewood and I own that house today. And I can tell you that I avoid Roger Williams Park because you will bottom out if you don't do 5 miles an hour. The speed bumps, and we had a comment that it's going to cause more damage because the speeder is going to get into an accident. Well, if you're speeding, then maybe that's what you deserve. I mean, we're more worried about what somebody is doing, breaking the law, than we are worried about protecting the people from these speeders. I think we really need to pay more attention to how to stop it rather than to make excuses on not being able to do something. And I will volunteer my time to help if that's what you need. I sat there today all day. I can't tell you how many people went over those speed bumps. They don't slow down because they're used to exactly what that is. They know it doesn't do anything. And then they proceed to go right through the stop sign. That's what I can offer you. I can tell you that it's just horrible and people just don't pay attention to the law anymore. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to close public hearings. Second time. And we will move on to the next topic. Road and control. Councilman Donegan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. This is just to kind of get an update on how the city's rodent baiting program is going, the current capacity, if there's any backlog.
Director.
Done quite a bit of research on this. We average about 5 new appointments for baiting a day and about 10 appointments per day for rebaiting. We have a backlog of indemnification forms of 115. We have a backlog for the auto rebate program of 786. We currently have almost 3,000 bait boxes out, averaging about 25 per week. Unfortunately, this is not a staffing issue and this is not a budget issue. The rats are breeding at a faster rate than we could possibly kill them. This is again a situation where we need to change the public's attitude towards composting, roosters, chickens, animal waste, bird feeders, wood piles, and other nesting sources. We have done everything we can, and we are just about to start a program of changing the bait to a more potent bait, but all that's going to do is perhaps kill them quicker. It's the effective ingredient is called first strike, so that the rodent won't go back into the hole and take a second bite as soon as they eat this particular poison. And we have a sample that we're trying in the Midwood area right now because of a recent surge in that area. We're trying this bait in that area and doing a test in that area. It is substantially more expensive. We pay $90 a bucket for the material that we've been using. This first strike costs about 50% more, but it actually has more pieces. So in the long run, if it is effective, it may actually save us money. But this is not a staffing and this is not a budget proactive. You can double the budget. You can give me $500,000 if people continue to feed them and provide them nesting areas. You're throwing good money after bad. And that's the most proactive thing we can do is try to change people's attitudes towards every one of those items and others. Looking at, if you go to the Providence website, in Providence, they only do one baiting. And if it doesn't work, you're on your own. You call Grizz and Brown or whatever you want. But they, on their website, have the exact same thing, that you got to seal up holes inside and outside your home. You've got to pick up the animal waste. It may not be you. You may have the best yard in the neighborhood, but the average rodent travels 300 feet a night. So if it's somebody in the neighborhood, and these rodents, they reproduce fast, and it's not one at a time.
Thank you. Councilwoman Vargas.
Thank you. Just to the director, I had a quick question, or maybe it may not be quick, but are there particular sections of Cranston that you're seeing that there's more bait being requested or so? And that's my first question, and what we can, and two, when you have inspectors or someone within our city going out and placing these baits out, if they happen to come across and see a overflow of trash, over a flow of, say, dumpsters, if there's more than 4 units or so forth, are we then also coming back, being proactive on that end, which may entail a little bit more work, but then sending notice and letting them know, whether it's the person next door that we see it may not necessarily, and it's the neighbor, just they need the bait, but it's the dumpster next door, the trash happening. And my third question is, what are your thoughts of even possibly outsourcing to While we have staff in place, it might be costly. I'm just curious though, would that even take care of some sort of the situation to speed up, to keep up with the amount of rodents being reproduced?
If I could take your questions in reverse order, because I totally forgot the first one already. The third one, if you had 50,000, 100,000 to hire Griggs and Brown to help take the backlog, I personally am telling you, it's a waste of money because they're reproducing too fast. It has to be something that stops the rodents. Your middle question was, does the rodent control officer, when the rodent control officer goes to any site, if he's baiting and there's something there, he will tell that resident that they need to take care of the wood pile, that they need to stop feeding the birds, that they need to pick up the dog waste. He can't go back. He doesn't have the time to go back and see if they're actually doing that. And in some cases, I know one in particular, my youngest daughter, the yard is pristine and it's not her yard. And that was the point I was making. So if we're not invited into the yard 300 feet down the road, that is the source, we can't even report that to inspections. But it would be inspections that we would report something to if he saw it. And then inspections would have to go to that property. He can discuss it with the property owner when he's baiting. But if he sees something on a neighboring property, he would report that to inspections because that would fall in their purview.
Correct, because then I think there's an ordinance in place where we actually can cite folks for overflowing of trash. The first question was, is there a particular area in general that you're seeing that there's more requests coming in? Because, well, even if we were to outsource or in general, we're also not keeping up with the requests too, so, but is there a particular area in the city where we're beating more than others? And it's not to point fingers at any particular section. I'm just wondering, what can we possibly do to help other than obviously educating folks and in general?
Well, obviously, maybe not obviously, there is a higher concentration in the urbanized section of Cranston where the houses are close together than in Weston Cranston, but we are baiting quite a bit in Weston Cranston because of chickens and roosters. But when you have like the Midwood area, once it's in that area, every one of those houses is getting calls. And when you look at the map that the administrative person in Public Works, Barbara, maintains, she has a GIS map of where every one of these houses are. And there's certain neighborhoods where it's like all lit up with we're here, one right after another. And you can't say no to a person. If the person has the rodents in their yard and it's coming from another neighbor, you've got to take care of them too. We don't know where that rodent's going to be the next day. So if it's 5 houses in a row, then it's 5 houses in a row. And sometimes when you're in a higher density neighborhood, there are more traps in that area. The one point that I didn't make earlier that I probably should have is in talking to the bait experts, even though we're using this first strike material now, which is a more potent active ingredient, it is no more dangerous to pet and animals than what we've been using. The key point there again is people cannot just open up your back door and let your dog run into the backyard, because whether it's the first material or the second material, if they pick up and they chew on a dead rodent, they're eating poison. We have to be responsible for our own pets. And if you've had rodents in the area, and especially if you've asked for the baiting, you've got to pay attention to them. And if they pick up a dead animal, they're picking up the poison. There was a reason why that animal died. It's doing what we want it to do, but that's the only time it would ever impact an animal.
Councilwoman Jermaine?
Thank you. Director, there's one more thing I would like to take a look at is the abandoned property. Is a shelter for rats in our city. yesterday I spoke with a resident that live next to one. It's been 2 years, this property has been vacant. And there are many animals that the window broken and animals get in there and died in there. So, and nothing has been done. So I did send a request to see what can be done to all those abandoned property that really serve as a shelter for rats. So not only we have residents that has to do their part, but for those abandoned property, I would like to know what you think that can be done for them as well.
I can't do anything because it's outside of Public Works. That has to be a building inspections issue. They have the right to go onto that property. I can't go onto anyone's property to even do the baiting without the legal indemnification form. So I cannot be, we had someone that wanted me to bait the entire bike path. I cannot do that. A, I can't get an indemnification form. B, we can't afford that. So we only are going on to properties that will sign the indemnification form. If it's an abandoned property, that would have to be the building inspections department.
Is there a way Department of Public Works can work in partnership with the building? Because it's like you are putting the work and then at one side and the other side is just like you are, filling up a bucket that has a hole on it. You see what I mean? It's like, because this person I spoke yesterday and she has bidding, and thank you, she called the city, we bid her house, but it's nothing. Because right next door, there is an abandoned property where there is dead animals inside.
Yeah, that again, because that has to be a building inspections issue because they have the ability to go after that property owner. Where we're baiting, we're rebating. We can't go on to abandoned properties. That is the purview of the building inspections department. They have the ability to hire somebody to board it up. That's a whole legal thing. That's just not Public Works.
Thank you. Council Vice President Perry, could we put this request for building inspection to come before this commission? We talk about it because this is really an issue.
I'll check and see what the right procedure is. Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you. Director Bernardo, how would you advise a neighborhood to come together to actually solve this problem? Other than being proactive, I can say that recently I was called to go to a home who the constituent got Griggs and Brown to come and bait their property, knowing that the city was behind. They did not care that they had to pay the money, but this is in their whole neighborhood. So then to go through the process so that everyone else would call the city and identify where they live, verify that they have the right to ask for this, then a form is mailed to them. They have to fill it out. They need to send it back. Everyone needs to do this kind of, in unison, I would guess, in order for the properties to be baited within a similar time frame and actually solve the problem. Is that correct?
Not necessarily, because even if we do the entire street, if there's a source somewhere, the direct answer to your question is if you've got a group of neighbors and the Midwood area is probably one of the best areas. They have identified, it's been on the news, their source. And when that source was identified and taken care of, the problem reduced. If all of your neighbors are taking care of their property, all we're doing is putting out traps for a source somewhere else. If they know what the source is and they can identify that source for building inspections to go out there, if it's a violation, as the councilwoman was talking a few minutes ago, then that is something they can do as a community. But for them to get together and all fill out the indemnification forms is not really addressing the problem. We're going to kill the rodents that go into that area. But if you haven't gotten to the source, that's what I was saying earlier about throwing good money after bad, because they're just reproducing a lot quicker than we can kill them.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Marino?
Thank you. I'll be brief. With respect to the rat issue, I understand it's not a DPW issue when it comes to abandoned homes, but to Councilwoman Germain's point, I've seen that myself. You know, the residents nearby have a nice, clean property, lived there for, decades, never a problem. And there's one home that's abandoned for a variety of reasons. And I think that I know no system is perfect, but if we could, as a city administration, make a better effort at coordinating between the individuals who go out for the pest control when there are obvious situations like an abandoned home, and communicate with inspections so that we can timely address it. You're right, they multiply at an extremely fast rate. I mean, I can tell you, and I'm sure I'm not alone, that was some of the frustration we had. We had difficulty filling the position because we knew that there was a growing problem. And, while a month doesn't seem like a long time, 3 months, and they multiply at a rate that none of us would like to see. So every little bit that we can do, but there should be more communication between the two departments to make that happen.
And if I wasn't clear, let me apologize. If our inspector sees something, he does report it, but he is running from one appointment to the other because he's so far behind that he's not riding the neighborhood looking for the source. He just doesn't have that time.
If I may, Councilwoman, and back to you also, Councilwoman Jermaine, we've seen a dramatic increase through constituent affairs and in my office of requests for inspections to go out and deal with matters such as you. In fact, there was one on Mapleton Street, if I remember. We got that corrected, right? I would say on average right now, probably 6 requests per week for inspections to go out. I just got one again today on Pontiac Avenue in Ward 2 that's being addressed. So DPW and inspections are working jointly through the administration. Once we get a complaint, whether it be from a constituent, whether it be from Dave LaQuali, our rodent control officer, or from any other source, we're addressing that immediately. And I have to say, inspections are doing an amazing job as far as keeping up. You talk about a backlog with the rodent problem. We're keeping up pretty good with that. Inspections is doing a marvelous job of keeping up with it. And we're citing people, we're bringing people to court, we're hitting them in their pockets. But what we're finding is a lot of these properties are, the parents have passed away, the children live out of state, they're either renting to people that could care less, they have no pride in ownership, or they're just leaving it. And so we're going after these out-of-state owners, these, these fly-by-night people that don't care. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Director. While you were here, I know it's a little out of context, but we have another issue, the property. I sent you the pictures, so that was taken care of, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And feel free, council people, to, if you have these properties that need to be addressed, just send them to me.
While you're here, I have to say thank you for this sign you put on what it was addressed, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure.
Okay, I'll be mindful of the time. We're running way over, so we'll take One more comment, please. Councilman Donegan.
Thank you, Chairman. Director and Director Macaulay, I just want to say thank you. You know, this is Director Macaulay, as I'm sure you can remember from your time canvassing and knocking on doors, you know, in 2 and in neighboring Ward 3. It is probably the first or second most frequent complaint and issue that people bring up is that, so I appreciate the administration working on that. And you know, we passed, when you were on the council, we passed a law or some amendments to the rodent enforcement control that we worked on together. So I'm glad that that's helping. And you know, anything we can do to disseminate information about the program or proactive measures that we as residents can take, you know, I'm sure all of us will be happy to spread that information.
Appreciate that, Councilman.
Thank you. The last item on the agenda is painted lines at Dyer Ave and Cranston Street. Councilman Donegan, you have 3 minutes.
I'm going to use all 3 of those minutes, Chairman. No, I had reached out about this in May and then again in June. And Director, you were just coming on, so I don't mean that as any sort of slight. I know you've had your hands full, and that's why I kind of wanted to throw this on the docket here this evening. Anyone who, you know, as you're coming up to the intersection at Dyer and Cranston Street, people, there's currently only 1 lane in each direction, and people tend to go to the right or go to the left. And what it creates is a potential for people passing on the right when someone on the left, where the lane really is, who wants to turn right, and that could cause an accident in the shoulder. I just think that potentially just painting some lines there, whether or not we create 2 lines where there's a right turn only lane or a left turn only lane, something to help better direct the traffic there within the existing intersection could hopefully prevent injury or accidents.
Councilman, we've looked into it and we will be painting on all 4 approaches, not a second lane, but we will be better delineating the shoulder area in a width that's less than a travel lane. For many reasons, we can't add the second lane because of the roadway geometry. The signal equipment doesn't support a additional phase and the preemption for fire station number 3. But we believe that the striping, which will go out with this year's crosswalk striping contract, which is already the purchase order has been pulled, and we're just waiting for the contract to go out there. When he is doing the statewide painting, including the crosswalks, he will be doing this.
Okay, Council President Paplaskas.
Thank you, Vice President. Not to, make this meeting go any later. Just want to thank Councilmember Donegan for bringing that up. I mean, you get to that stoplight, you literally look to the person next to you and you go, ready? And it's like a race, because when that light goes green, it's, whoever's got the quickest car is going to get through there first. So look forward to the lines being painted so we can see the racetrack better. Thanks,
I
John.
hope that's not your Mustang.
Okay, apologize to everyone that's waiting for the ordinance meeting for running late, but these were very important topics that were covered. Director, thank you very much for doing such a great job of answering those questions. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you. But we are running late, and in an abundance of time, unless there's an objection, I'd like to just keep going. Is that all right? Okay, I'd like to call the Ordinance Committee meeting for Thursday, July 14th, 2022 to order.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Present.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Present.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Present.
Councilman Campiano, Councilman Riley,
Present.
Council President Paplaskas.
Present.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 12th, 2022 and June 16th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes, Chair, point of information. Can we take like a 3-minute recess? Let everybody in the hallway come in. That way
That's
we can
fine.
give Heather a break too for a
Sure.
couple minutes. She's been going with the stenography.
All right, we'll take a 3-minute break.
Mic check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 1, 2. That's the mic check 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Mic check 1, 1, 2.
All right, I'd like to call the ordinance committee meeting back to order. At this time, I will entertain a motion to take the docket out of order.
Motion move.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
The first matter that we're going to be dealing with tonight is ordinance 2-22-02, buildings and construction, sponsored by Councilman Donegan. My understanding was there was going to be a motion to continue that. I'll entertain such a motion.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving down to ordinance 4-22-08, ordinance and amendment of chapter 17 of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled zoning, change of zone for 870 Oakland Avenue, sponsored by Council President Paplaskas. Is there anyone in chambers or on Zoom that wishes to be heard on this matter?
Chair, point of information. I don't have to recuse from this, but I'm going to recuse out of an abundance of caution. This property shares a parking lot with Tommy's Pizza. As some of you know, I deliver pizza there 2 nights a week. That is not the applicant, but just out of an abundance of caution, I'll recuse from this tonight.
Thank you, Council President.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Council.
Thank you. That would require the filing of a recusal form with the State Ethics Commission, placing that form on file with the city clerk, and stepping away from the council floor while there is debate on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. And what name and address for the record?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Ordinance Committee. For the record, Robert Murray, 21 Garden City Drive in Cranston. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the applicant of Ordinance 4-22-08, which is a small change of zone ordinance for the property at 870 Oakland Avenue. With me this evening is Mr. Bruce Lane, who is the principal of 870 Oakland LLC. He and his wife own the property. As the council president just alluded, this property, I'm sure is familiar to many people. It houses a small building, includes Tommy's Pizza, Mr. Lane's real estate office, and an insurance office. Just by way of background, in 2008, the proprietor of Tommy's Pizza, when they were interested in locating at this property, proposed and handled a rezoning of lot 350, which is the lot where the buildings are. And they did so at the time because under the former schedule of uses in the C2 zone, restaurants with alcoholic beverage licenses were not allowed. So they rezoned the property to C3 to accommodate Tommy's Pizza to be able to have a liquor license. Mr. Lane was not directly involved in it, and the long and short of it is lot 358, which is contiguous to lot 350 and is basically the other part of the parking lot, was not rezoned. So tonight, with the recommendation of the Planning Commission Tuesday night, we're asking the council to rezone the other portion of the property, parking lot to C3. You may recall in the last 3 or 4 months, the council rezoned property to the north. I think it's 840 Oakland Avenue, Mr. DeZoglio's property to C3. And as the planning staff recommended in their report, this would just make it a contiguous blend of C3 properties. He has no specific plans for the property. Will probably just stay in its normal state. It would just be convenient not to have the split zone. You know, one of the issues that we have to deal with occasionally if there's financing involved. You know, my office sometimes has to render a zoning opinion, and I have to like do this extraordinary long zoning opinion because some uses that are allowed in C3 are not allowed in C2 and vice versa. None of which the uses with the difference are, there are more uses that are not allowed in the C3 than would be allowed in the C2. So I don't think it's a question of, and I have that list available, but so that's basically what we're trying to do tonight. We're just trying to put both lots at 870 Oakland Avenue in the same C3 zone. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that's in chambers that would like to be heard on this matter? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to be heard?
I see no public comment.
I'll close public comment at this time and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes. Moving on to ordinance 4-22-04. That is ordinance and amendment of the 2010 comprehensive plan for 641 Park Project, Legion Bowl, sponsored by Mayor Hopkins. Is there anyone in the public that would like to be heard on this matter? Name and address for the record, please.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, presently there is no video appearing on YouTube.
Through the chair, there's a technical problem with the video capture device. It should take 1 second to restart.
Thank you, Counselor.
Microphone check 1, 2, 2, 2.
We good? Council Angel, can you hear us?
Yes, you can be heard and seen, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, we'll continue. And we're in the public comment portion of ordinance 4-22-04. If you can just have your name and address for the record.
Point of information, Chair. Which one are we on? Which ordinance? Is this for Legion Bowl?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I wanted to move it forward because we have the planning department staff with us.
Do I have to hold the button down? That's fine. Again, Brian LaPlante with offices on Kenwood Street in Cranston. And I'm here on behalf of my client, Legion Development. They're the owner of the property that's affected by this ordinance. And just for clarity of the record, there are actually two ordinances before you, one being 4-22-04 with respect to the comprehensive plan. And then with respect to the same underlying matter, it's 4-22-05. Is it okay if we speak to both?
You said, yeah, you can certainly speak to the project as a whole.
Great. So I'm here with Mr. D'Ambrosio tonight, the longtime owner of the property. His family has actually operated a bowling alley in the city for over a century, nearly a century. And they've been at that site at the corner of Doric and Park Ave for nearly 70 years. Unfortunately, although they've adapted their business over the years, bowling is an incredibly challenging business at this time. It's just not viable at this site any longer. And so for the past few years, not months, years, he's actually been working very closely and collaboratively with the planning department to repurpose, revitalize the site, and to create a mixed-use project that frankly, the city and my client are proud of. Another beacon to the city. And that's essentially what we're proposing tonight for an ordinance change to allow for that development to move forward. It includes affordable housing so that residents in the city, teachers and police and others can actually afford to live in Cranston in a really nice community, a beautiful building for people to live in, businesses on the first floor so that more pedestrian traffic can walk through the city over to Park Cinema and back. And it's really just a nice complement to what's going on at Ralph Square and in the immediate area. We appeared before the Plan Commission on Tuesday evening on these two items that are before you. And after presenting a great deal of information to the Plan Commission, that group recommended your approval of both the comprehensive plan amendment and the zone change. And so we're asking this evening that you approve both so that my client can move forward with the project and that it can actually be viable as a shining example of what can be done here. I have with me multiple experts. I have Edward Pimentel, our land use planning expert. I have Eric Prevey from Dupree Engineering, our civil engineer, who worked again closely with the city for a long period of time to just improve this proposal. And lastly, we have Harman Peralta from Beta, who's our traffic engineer, as that was very important to us to ensure that this site was navigable and didn't adversely affect neighbors. And that proved to be true. Not only that, your planning department actually had a peer review done of that traffic study and by Fuss and O'Neill, and that actually came back and confirmed just what Beta had said, that the traffic operation works for this area and will not adversely affect it. And so I'm happy to present these witnesses for you and answer any questions that you have, either myself or the experts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in chambers that would like to be heard on this ordinance? Name and address for the record, please.
Steve Fries, 107 Garden Hills Drive. I got to do this. Is this? I don't want to mess things up. Is this working? Okay. Can I talk on? He talked about both ordinances. Can I talk about both ordinances since they're part of the same project?
Yes, please.
I appreciate that very much. All right. So what was I? I'm Steve Fries. I live at 107 Garden Hills Drive, but I'm here in my capacity as a member of the planning board. I want to come here and I don't do this almost ever, as you guys know. I don't
do this stuff. So I wanted to start out by saying that this is a very good project. They really worked well with the developer, really worked well with the staff in coming up with a plan that's pretty creative and innovative to try to revitalize that part of Park Avenue. And I thought it was a pretty interesting approach with mixed use. I'm coming here specifically is to speak about the ordinance related to the zoning. The developer put in a proposal and we at the Planning Commission voted unanimously by a 7-0 vote to make some changes to it, and it's in your package. And I just want to go over the reasons why I voted for those changes so that you hear it firsthand from me. And I know another planning board member is here. So first, one change was that we limited it to 10 of the 75 possible units, we limited to no more than 10 to have two bedrooms. One reason why we did that is there is a concern about parking in that area, okay? We had comments from the public about concerns about parking because you're putting in a lot of apartments in one place and it's going to be commercial use at the same time on a busy street. So we put it at 10 so we knew a more definitive number of what kind of parking would be involved. The second thing we did is the off-street parking issue. In this city, we basically require for every residential unit, essentially, generically, 2 parking spaces. So I was convinced that when you're dealing with only a 1-bedroom apartment, all you need is 1 1/4, because most of the time it's a single person there. Sometimes I lived in an apartment in Providence for 10 years. I didn't have a car, you know, so I bought into the 1 1/4. But when it's 2 bedrooms, I asked that it be changed to 2 parking spaces because there is a clear possibility it could be a married couple there or 2 roommates with a car. I know the developer agreed to this change at the hearing, as did he on the earlier part about Ted Bed. There was a concern about this way this ordinance is written, was that there was no parking spaces allocated for commercial space. I generally understand that it can work, that you have, you know, commercial hours of 8 to 5 and evening hours being different, and you're using the same space. The problem was, if you look at the ordinance, it has a permitted use of tavern and neighborhood bar. When you have a tavern neighborhood bar, that's a nighttime use. And so that was really concerning. And if you look at the report by the staff, and I apologize to go over 3 minutes, but I really am speaking in my official capacity, you guys. I'm not a NIMBY person. I'm not doing anything, you know what I'm saying? So the staff said about off-street parking, the justification to request that commercial spaces not require additional parking is that the parking needs of the commercial units would generally be the opposite time of the residents occurred. Staff finds that this rationale to be sound if, and this is in capital letters and in italicized, if the commercial uses maintain normal 8 to 5 business hours. A tavern pub, there's nothing in this ordinance that says the tavern pub is going to have 8 to 5 business hours. So what we had about an hour worth of discussion about how to make a safeguard in here in case they want to have a tavern. And so we said, let the planning commission decide. Oh, I caused a problem. I'm okay? Okay. The planning commission said, let's have some flexibility here. The planning commission will have the authority to set the number of additional parking spaces if they're going to have a tavern. That's what this is. I really didn't want to come here and cause a whole bunch of boo-hoo about this, but I really want this project to work. Believe it or not, it's an first affordable housing project we had there in this city for a long time. It's mixed use. It's on our main street. If we mess this up, it's going to be a big problem. So I'm just erring on the side of caution about the off-street parking. It doesn't mean it has to be this much. We can reduce it if it comes in. They agreed, the developer offered an alternative site plan of 112 parking spaces. This falls within that. If we can lower it, I will certainly consider doing so at the planning board. If I'm still on the planning board, if Chris wants to appoint me and if I want to be reappointed in 6 months, but I will do so. All I'm asking for, you guys, I know we're all different parties here and I know, we're all different. I'm telling you, this is the best way to make sure things are done correctly. that we don't have an off-street parking problem there. And so I wanted to emphasize that, and I asked the chairman, if you guys have any questions, or any commissioner, excuse me, wrong venue. If any council person has a question for why the planning board, or Steve Fries in particular, voted the way he did, I want you to ask me. And if somebody gives you different versions of rationales, I'd ask the courtesy of coming back up here to explain myself, as I would do for any of you if I was at the planning board. Godspeed, do what you're gonna do.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to be heard on this ordinance? Is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to be heard?
See no public comment.
All right, at this time, we'll close public comment and I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve 422-04.
Second.
Any discussion? Council President?
Yeah, I'd just like to, thank the planning department, planning commission as well for all their work on this. I know parking was an issue when we had met and we did the site visit there. I don't know how many months ago that was. And that seemed to be one of the issues that came up. Appreciate the planning commission and the staff working on the issue and providing the extra parking spots. I mean, as you all know, in the city, we don't allow on-street parking. So working this out at the commission before us certainly helps us to do our job. So I just want to say that for now, and I'll be in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. As someone who from a very young age learned how to bowl at Legion Bowl, I am sad to see it go. But this is, the city desperately needs housing. We desperately need affordable and low to moderate income housing. I think it's going to be 15% of the 75 units that are going to be built. As Commission Member Frias stated, I don't think there's been a commercial low to moderate income housing development within the city in a decade, over a decade. More close to ever. Okay. My heart breaks just a little bit more. But as it stands, 48% of renters in the city are housing cost burdened. 28% of homeowners are housing cost burdened. That equals out to about 1/3 of all households in the city. So this is desperately needed. I will also just mention that one way and one thing that I think we can do as a city to connect this mixed use development with Rolfe Square is to advocate for the implementation of the Rhode Island Transit Forward 2040 plan, which would see a Park Avenue crosstown bus route connect down Park Avenue. So let's push for that too, but this is a great project. Congratulations.
Councilwoman Marino?
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to everyone, not just the owner of the property for taking the time, but also the plan department and the plan commission. But especially the developer for really putting the care and the investment in the community and trying to come up with a creative way that gives back in a way that's responsive to the community's concerns as well. And I applaud the planning commission for taking that, delivering that over home plate, being very aware of the parking concerns of the residents in the area. And I just want to thank you for all of that effort. Thank you.
Councilman Perry?
Yes, I'd have to say that Marshall D'Ambrosio and myself are probably two people that do agree that the bowling business has been a challenge. I got out a little sooner than he did. So I know the work that the planning department and the D'Ambrosio family has put into this project, and I think he has taken every step, crossed every T, dotted every I, and I believe that the project is good. I even heard from Annette Bourne. She sent me some correspondence saying that she testified on Tuesday night and that the director of Housing Works, she even thinks that this is a wonderful project for the city, a catalyst for the area. I absolutely positively hope that everyone will approve this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Jermaine.
Thank you, Council. So I want to say thank you to the Planning Commission for the recommendation. I want to say that when I went to the site visit and we asked questions, and the one concern most of the resident was the parking. And I remember at that meeting how the owner shared that he will take into consideration the concern of the resident and do something that will involve everybody, not something only for himself, but take into consideration the needs of the Princeton resident. And I appreciate that. And I know we still have a lot of residents that they don't approve it. And I think it's a great project for the city. We cannot really satisfy everybody. Unfortunately, that's how life goes. We cannot satisfy everyone. And unfortunately, we have in the city some of these culture, not in my backyard. And I think we need to get rid of this culture, because when we have to do something that is for the common good, for the benefit of all people, we need to do it well. And I really commend the professionalism behind this project. So I appreciate that. So I will be supporting of this this evening. And I want to say, I think I represent this part, or now with districting, I think to all the constituents, I will say, I think this will be great for our city, and we cannot have it all. So I wish you good luck, and we will keep doing great things. Thank you.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you. I'll try and be brief. I just want to say that I am very much in support of this project, and I appreciate the compromises that I know were made as it was worked on, and that if, the developers are being a good neighbor, caring about what the residents around the proposed development are looking for, and that if, we continue to develop this way, I think that's, a way to have smart development in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to echo their comments. I also want to thank you for your vision. I think this is a beautiful project, and I'm very excited for it. It's going to brighten up Cranston right on the highway. It'll be seen off of it. And I hope there are many more to come in the future to bring Cranston into the modern era. But I'm looking forward to it. Like John, I learned to bowl at Legion Bowl, so it's a shame to let it go, but to replace it with something modern and not just, walking away from it. I very much appreciate it, and we're looking forward to it. So thank you. Any further discussion? Oh, Councilwoman Vargas.
Thank you, Chairman. Same here. I'm echoing the sentiments of my colleagues here in the council. I'd like to commend the developers, the owner as well, and be willing to have conversations and dialogue, not only with the community, but also the Planning Commission as well, for speaking up and obviously addressing a lot of the concerns that the residents surrounding the area had. I really hope that this is it's obviously long overdue, but I really hope that this is a model of what we see here in the city of Cranston, and that after today or after tonight, or obviously it has to go before the full council if this passes, that we continue to see folks that want to invest in our city to continue to have affordable housing as part of their mixed use development here in our city as well. And that it's not just, saying that they're going to do a project, but getting everyone involved. And obviously we know, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, but we obviously all know that affordable housing is obviously, it's been a long overdue crisis. It continues to be. And so this is definitely a start to that. So I appreciate your partnership into the owner as well. And I hope that we all continue to be good neighbors with all the neighbors, even with those that are abutting the property as well. And that I hope that that 5-10 years from now, I look back, that we continue to see the affordable housing in that development. And it's not just within the next year or 2 or 3 or 4, that is what kind of has, been agreed. So I will be voting clearly and supporting this project this evening before us. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Just to clarify, this is for the first ordinance, the comprehensive plan one.
Yes.
Woman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
All right, and now moving on to the zoning ordinance 4-22-05, which is the same project. It was explained to us. If there's any further public comment on this, anyone like to be heard in chambers? None. Anyone on Zoom?
I see no public comment.
Close public comment for this ordinance at this time, and entertain a motion to approve
Chair.
the ordinance as amended by the Planning Commission.
That's what I was gonna say. 5 as did in the planning commission.
Second.
Any discussion?
Can
Seeing
I
none?
raise just one small point of order from planning
Oh, yes.
staff? Planning staff, this is Senior Planner Joshua Berry. Obviously, I don't want to belabor the point. We were here prepared to give a full presentation, but I think it's unnecessary now. But there was one small issue with the affordable housing deed restriction. After Planning Commission, the Housing Commission raised the point that it could be logistically difficult to expect the 99-year deed restriction, and that a 30-year deed restriction would be more appropriate and a lot more feasible. I think is a complicated issue that we thought wasn't so complicated. This was raised after the vote from the Plan Commission, and I wanted to raise the point that you may want to consider at the recommendation of the Housing Commission member, not speaking on behalf of the Housing Commission. They didn't meet on this item, but with their expertise, we were told that 30 years was a recommendation for the condition on the deed restriction for affordable units.
Would anybody entertain a motion for that?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, Council.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, as a matter of Robert's Rules of Order, a point of order may only be raised by a member of the body or an individual such as Mr. Verdecchia or myself acting on behalf of the council to provide advice and redirect it. Secondarily, with respect to the 30-year restriction, deed restriction, I think if the council is going to entertain that, I think that it should have the benefit of hearing from the planning experts on this, and whether or not this disables the city being able to claim that portion of these units as low to moderate income housing.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
So at this time, it's a little, that should have been brought up at public comment when everybody was getting up. So I wish it was. We have a motion on the table now. Do we want to withdraw the motion, reopen public comment to hear about this issue?
My question is, does it pertain to this ordinance or the ordinance prior that we already passed? It pertains to this ordinance?
It's this one.
I mean, you're on this ordinance. I guess it's chair's prerogative if you want to call a roll or if you want to open this back up for public comment or clarification on this item.
Yes, Councilman.
Under the state law, for it to count as low to moderate income housing, does it have to have a 99-year deed?
Why don't we withdraw? Will you, Jason, can you speak to that?
The 30-year standard is what is needed to get these counted in our census of affordable housing units. And to speak to Josh's point, this did come after the fact, and I wish we had known that. We felt that if we were going to, because we were involved in writing this ordinance, we felt that the 99 is like, why not 99? The problem is the 99-year really relates to public housing, really public housing that's owned by some type of nonprofit agency or city agency. It is a private project. So with private projects, 30 years is the standard. So I think we pushed ourselves a little too far, and I think we just have to hew ourselves back to the standard, which is the 30-year. So and that's it. There isn't much else to it. So okay.
And if I could just have the developer's attorney, if you wanted to have any comment on this issue.
I appreciate the insight into this issue, and ultimately, the developer, the applicant is comfortable with that modification, which would be in section or paragraph 3 to change the number of years from 99 to 30. That's something that's acceptable to us.
Thank you. All right, so Council President, did you want to withdraw your motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll withdraw my motion to approve, and I'll make a motion to amend line number 92 from the numbers and change the numbers 99 to 30. So line 92, 99 to 30.
Second.
Any discussion? Counselor?
Mr. Chair, just for your edification and for the committees, since this is an amendment to a proposed zoning ordinance, you must allow additional public comment now on the amendment. So I would just put it out there. If anyone wants to comment on the amendment, you have to give them that opportunity.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there any that wishes to be heard on?
As one vote on the planning board, I have no problem with this amendment. So make the motion to approve this amendment, 30 years, and then approve it with the changes that the planning commission recommended. That's all. Thank you very much.
Any further comment?
I have a comment. It's just a technical issue. I see this as on line 97, not on line 92. If we're referring to the Plan Commission markup version, which I believe the motion was referring to, it's line 97.
The packet I have has it on line number 92. So is there an updated packet that? Okay. I'll amend my motion to line 97. Thank you.
Second.
And any discussion? Councilman Donegan?
Are there any federal, state, or local subsidies being utilized for this development? Okay, thank you.
Chair, because I changed line, do you want to ask for public comment one more time just to be safe?
Yes, and is there anyone on Zoom or in chambers that desires public comment on this?
I see no public comment on Zoom.
At this time, I will close public comment. And any further discussion? Oh, Councilwoman.
Thank you. So I just want to confirm that this 99-year language that was on there is not going to affect anything in terms of, and anything, I use that very broadly, affordable housing. It will still be deemed affordable even if we do decrease it to 30 years. I just want to make sure that that's still correct through a legal counsel or planning.
Sure. I want to be careful in my remarks because I'm not going to give a legal opinion to the developer on this. But the city is correct that it will qualify in the census as affordable housing units. So we can move forward on that basis. It will not disable that aspect of the census data. So there's no problem with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll on the amendment.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
And I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended ordinance.
The amended ordinance here tonight and the amendments made at the planning commission. That's my motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Through the chair, just a question. Would this require re-advertising?
Moving on to another ordinance involving the planning department. We have the 5-22-03 ordinance and amendment of the 2010 comprehensive plan. And also the sister ordinance 5-2204, the zoning change for Comstock Parkway at Plainfield Pike. And these are sponsored by Council President Paplaskas. I would entertain a motion to approve these as a block.
I don't know if we can do it because of comp plan and zoning. I might take them separate.
Well, we can do these separate. So is anyone in chambers like to be heard on 5-2203?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brian LaPlante again, counsel for the applicant who presented this proposed modification amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map only, not the text, just the map itself, and a proposed zone change as well. And essentially what provoked this is my client, who operates Latte Love coffee shop on Comstock, desires to expand the business and is focusing on 3 lots on Comstock near the corner of Plainfield Pike. There are lots 51, 52, and 53. It comprises just about 2 acres and obviously less than an acre each. Once we submitted the proposal to develop that land, the planning department collaborated with us about the idea of changing the future land use map and the zoning, not only for those 3 parcels, but logically connected to the Washington Trust Bank parcel, with parcels plural, with lots 5 and 36 along Plainfield Pike. And then the corner lot, the true corner that has that white building on it, historically a home, and that's lot 38. It's only about 18,000 square feet on that corner. So it made a lot of sense to my client. We reached out to Mr. Douglas Nanny, who's here this evening in support of this. He owns the property on which Washington Trust Bank is located. We reached out to the social workers who actually own that corner lot and intend to operate some of their business there. And it made sense to them to change the zone essentially from industrial to commercial. And the notion of utilizing industrial property is always of a concern, and it should be to the planning department, to the city council, but these lots are so uniquely situated along that commercial corridor. They're surrounded by other businesses, and they're frankly too small to develop as industrial. In fact, the DeMarco family that owns the 3 lots that we hope to develop with the coffee shop, that land hasn't been developed in over half a century that they've owned it. And tax-wise, it's important to note that right now, the city is receiving just over 10,000 per year in taxes, and the intention is for the city to receive over 80,000 based upon the development of that property. We scrutinized the site, we had traffic engineers involved, and we're going through the development review process. That's a separate issue. But tonight, what we're asking is simply that that this committee recommend, as on Tuesday, the Plan Commission recommended to you that the comprehensive plan future land use map be amended and that the zoning be amended to allow for these businesses to operate just as they should be in this immediate area. We have, again, experts. Edward Pimentel spoke at length to the Plan Commission about the propriety of doing this, that it's good for Cranston, it's good for the city, and it's appropriate, especially for this immediate, this limited area of Comstock and Plainfield Pike. I'm happy to have Mr. Pimentel speak to you, answer any questions that you have. We also have our civil engineer, Jeffrey Hansen from Millstone, and we have our traffic engineer, Derek Hugg here, who studied the site. And it's really important for you to know that not only did Mr. Hugg study this site, but he was cognizant of and included in his report the industrial site that's being improved down the street to ensure that the capacity was sufficient. And he indeed confirmed that. Your internal traffic department here agreed with that conclusion. And so based upon that, would respectfully request that you approve these two ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard on this ordinance? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to be heard?
I see no public comment on Zoom.
Thank you. I'll close public comment at this time and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 5-22-03.
Second.
Any discussion? Council President?
Yeah, I'll just say, we had a site walk there a couple months ago. I think most of you made the trip out. I think the site walk was very helpful. Kind of get to see the traffic, get to see the business Latte Love across the street and their vision for moving across the street and really cleaning up that corner. This project will increase tax revenue for the city. We obviously know that we can use the money, and also appreciate the owner's investment in our city and having a vision to do something there. So I'll be supportive of this tonight. I think the couple residents came out to that site walk. Their questions were answered about the turning for the traffic leaving the site. And I really look forward to seeing a project being completed. So I'll be in support of it this evening.
Thank you. Any further discussion? See, Councilwoman Jermaine?
Thank you. So I was there to really, as Council President said, we were there. We were really satisfied with the explanation of the developer and well detailed. And I think this is great for the city. So I will be supporting for it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Renzulli?
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas?
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine?
Yes.
Councilman Riley?
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas?
Yes.
All right, moving on to the sister ordinance for zoning, 5-22-04. Is there anyone in chambers that wishes to be heard on this? Is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to be heard?
I see no public comment on Zoom.
I'll close public comment at this time and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Renzulli?
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas?
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine?
Yes.
Councilman Riley?
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to, back on the first page, 10-21-03. This is ordinance of revenue and finance, contracts and purchasing sponsored by Councilwoman Vargas, Marino, Donegan, and Ferry. Is there anyone in chambers that wishes to be heard on this? Is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to be heard on this?
I see no public comment on Zoom.
I will close public comment at this time and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilwoman Vargas?
Yes, thank you. So, first and foremost, I know this has been continuing one too many times, and I really would actually like to have any and all conversations tonight about this. It's pretty straightforward. I hope that I haven't, if anybody has any questions at all, that I'd be happy to answer it. I know recently the city was supporting an MBE conversation that took place in our city, our mayor's office, our state delegation as well. Here, I think this is a very straightforward ordinance. I introduced something very, actually probably, if not close to the same after the motion was done to actually exclude language. Now it really much leaves it to how it was actually introduced in 2019, which at the time Mayor Hopkins was actually the co-sponsor on this, as well as my other council members were here, some of them that are here today as well. John, maybe Councilman Jermaine, I'm not too sure if you were on the council then. We pretty much at this point would like any business that has a state certification of which they are a minority-owned business or woman-owned business, that they too have the maximum opportunity to participate in the city procurement process. And that 10% of the funded, 10% of the project, 10% of the city's purchasing be actually awarded to MBE. Sorry about that. There's some policies and purposes. The goals are really outlined on there. And my hope is to really provide everyone a piece of the apple, of the pie, I guess it would probably be better off for a word, in terms of making sure that we have a process in place, and that with the growing businesses here in the city and in our state, it gets equally distributed if they so have the certificate from the actual state of Rhode Island, which they need in order to become MBE certified. And I also think this is great, when you have more competitors that are also bidding on our RFPs, providing us with an RFQ. It allows us to also save money at the end of the day as a city and allow for competitive bids, lower bids, and still providing access to minority and women business enterprise-owned businesses, as explained on here. So I am open to and invite anyone to please ask questions. And I encourage my fellow council members here that this pass this evening before the committee and onto the full council for a full vote. I would like to thank the co-sponsors on this ordinance. And I don't, this is no fiscal impact. It doesn't come with a fiscal note. And I also welcome anybody that would like to be added as a co-sponsor at the same time. So that's it.
Councilman Donegan?
Thank you, Chairman. First, just want to thank Councilwoman Vargas for her advocacy on this. I think this is now year 3 maybe that you've introduced this, and I've been happy enough to, or honored to be able to co-sponsor with you. This sets a goal of 10% going towards MBEs and WEs, and it's needed. Based on the survey from the Secretary of State's office, only 10% of businesses within the city are certified as an MBE, and only 28% are certified as a WBE. That is significantly lower than what those actual populations represent within our city. 49.8% of our population in Cranston are women, and about 24% are non-white. So we have a gap to make up in terms of the businesses within our city representing the demographics of our city. And one way that we can do that is by investing in those businesses, by setting goals that we can reach. This is similar to what the state does. This is something that we can do at the city level, and it's something that we should do at the city level. So let's make 2020 the year that we pass this.
Councilmember Manzulli.
Thank you. I would just like to thank Councilwoman Vargas and the co-sponsors for putting this forward. I think it's an excellent ordinance, and I hope that economic development will help to promote this this plan going forward, should it pass. And I would like permission to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Councilwoman Jermaine.
Thank you, Chairman. I was a co-sponsor last year, so I will be happy to continue to be a co-sponsor. So I can, it's overdue. So if we always say, oh, we want equity, we want equality, we want opportunity, everybody can have opportunity. That's how we do it. And put a policy in place that will help us to not concretize, I would say, just to transform words into action. So that's really, thank you for your advocacy on it. And as Council Donegan said, you all been working on 3 years of 2019, so, or 2020. So last year it was continue, and I'm really happy this time we passed this and to serve the people of Cranston. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Marino.
Thank you. Thank you to my colleague, Councilwoman Vargas, for being persistent. Good things will come. It definitely is a win-win. It promotes equity and it promotes good financial benefit to the city with more competitive bidding. So I think it's fabulous. I admired this as a constituent. I'm proud to say that I have co-sponsored it with you. Thank you. And let's hope for success. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Council President.
Thank you. I see, I'm gonna keep trying to say Councilman Macaulay, Director Macaulay to my right, and you're making me nervous. Do you have something to add?
If I may, I want to applaud Councilwoman Vargas for this. I remember when this was first introduced. The mayor and the entire administration commend you and fully support this.
Thank you.
Chair.
Oh, yes, Council President.
Director, no more of my time, okay? So I'm kidding. Councilwoman Vargas, thank you so much. I like to be a co-sponsor as well. I appreciate the persistence, the hard work. All the times we continue it, and the running joke that I had with Council Vice President Brady was anything that's important, we continue over and over and over again. And then we finally pass it. So this is important, and Ed was right about that. So thanks.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, Councilman Ferry.
I applaud you, Councilman Vargas, for doing this. Thank you.
And I would like to be added as a co-sponsor with your permission. Thank you. And I think everybody said, everything on this ordinance. So I will bring it to a vote. No further discussion. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Manzulli.
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine.
Yes.
Councilman Riley.
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Moving on to 4-22-10, ordinance motor vehicles and traffic, multi-way stop intersection at Frankfurt Street and Pleasant Street. By Councilwoman Jermaine. Is anyone in chambers that wishes to be heard on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, before we get started, if I may.
Yes.
In looking at the ordinance itself, we state the Title 10, Chapter 32, but the ordinance itself does not indicate that we're making an amendment to Section 030. So the body of the ordinance should be changed to reflect that so that there's no confusion with Muni code. And we don't want to create any more work for our clerk Rose.
Okay, you should suggest, we can do that via amendment tonight.
Thank you, Jim.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I also spoke with Councilwoman Jermaine and I'll let her
Yeah.
Oh, yes, please.
take the lead.
Yes, I want to continue this ordinance for tonight, for next month. Also, I read, there's some technical issue with it, but I read also the report and from the Department of Public Works. So I don't know if you look at it as well. I will continue this for August, I would say. Until then, I would like to request a physical note about it. So,
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
yes.
Motion to continue?
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
All right, and then lastly on our docket, we have what I believe would be a communication, Oak Lawn Broad Street Cemetery, Councilwoman Vargas.
Thank you. So I decided to add it to the ordinance. I quite frankly, I'm not sure whether it would be ordinance, public works, just regular city council communication. My assumption is under ordinance only because there was a not too long, a recent ordinance that was passed with some language having some sort of some teeth that we could be used in order for us to actually enforce and provide or have some sort of keep folks accountable, I should say, for their private property. In this case, private cemeteries. I'm not, that ordinance was written without pointing fingers at any particular cemetery. It was an overall way to not only assure us of current cemeteries being kept accountable at any possible future cemeteries as well from becoming a nuisance or so forth. I would just like to ask the administration for an update in terms as to where we are. There's 2 cases before us on this cemetery. And for those that do watch YouTube later on or so forth is, one, there was a zoning violation that was brought before the city. I'll be honest with you, I took those pictures, sent them over to municipal court, to zoning. It then went to municipal court. COVID hit. There was a lot of delays in court. And I believe it might still be is being heard at municipal. And the second one, I believe, is cemeteries being there's in this specific cemetery, Oakland Cemetery, there is probably a pending case, if you will, over at Superior Court where the city has brought it forward because there is a account that the private cemetery has, the owner, but he has no access to it. Everyone is saying it's a revocable trust, and we're hoping that we can get access to it because I believe we also may have a lien on it, given the fact that the city has done some cleanup. There's also been volunteers that have done cleanups. I know I did some cleanups as well in that private cemetery. However, it is a private cemetery, and why I thank a lot of the volunteers that have cleaned that cemetery up and that have a huge heart. At the same time, I understand that there's still, Providence Journal just came up with an article saying that there was another cleanup being organized, and that's great. However, it's also a private cemetery, and my heart goes out to the families whose loved ones have been laid to rest there. But we need some sort of strict enforcement, and I'm trying to figure out where we are in this case because it's been an ongoing battle.
So Councilwoman Vargas, actually, there was a group email sent by Solicitor Millet to all of the solicitors regarding tomorrow's municipal court date. So I informed him that I was actually going to be in municipal court for another matter and that I would handle this matter. And I've been informed by Director McCauley that tomorrow's date, for whatever reason, I do not know. I'm just finding all this out this afternoon, has been continued for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. I'll find out tomorrow. As far as the Superior Court matter goes, I am not directly involved in that yet. I'm assuming I will become involved in that, and I will be able to get all the information. As I said, this is just, I learned of this actually not this afternoon, yesterday afternoon. So I know it's probably not, what you want to hear because it's been so long, but I can assure you that I will find out exactly what's going on from the legal aspect of it in terms of what's going on with additional enforcement or additional cleanup, things of that nature. I guess I would leave that up to the administration, but I will, and we've spoken many times, you can always call me. I will find out everything I can and I'll report back to you. It's probably going to be next week, beginning of next week sometime.
Okay, so do we know if we filed a motion? Did the city solicitor file a motion at all on the Superior Court case, not on the one going before municipal court?
I wish I could answer that. I'd be lying if I told you I knew. I'm really not sure. Let me look into it. I'll have all the answers for you very shortly.
All right, so if possible, I'd like to then place this topic or this issue, because you'll know a little bit more tomorrow within a few days, maybe add this under council communication for this
the
month's
meeting.
city council meeting at the end of the month. So
I'll definitely have answers by then.
if through the council, president and bros, we can add that,
Yeah, and just
an update.
through the chair, Solicitor Radecchia and Attorney Angel, I see him on Zoom. If you feel like we need an executive session for any of this, let Rose know so we can have it on the docket.
It's a little early. I don't know. It's going to depend on the status, what stage it's at in the Superior Court, whether it's a complex legal issue, something that can't be divulged, whether it's a relatively simple, straightforward type of petition. I just don't know at this point. But that is possible. It may need an executive session depending on where it's at.
So because I'd like to get an update on the municipal court side as well of it, which is going through our courts, I'm wondering if we should add that under executive session or add it as a precaution. But I mean, some of it might be public. I don't know. I'll defer to either one of you who are legal counsels.
Yeah,
before us.
well, it is a public hearing. So anyone could go to the court and they could sit there and listen. So that doesn't require an executive session. What would require executive session would be if there's legal strategy or a specific legal issue that really shouldn't be divulged to protect the interests of the city. That would require an executive session. Just basic information. Anyone from the public, you included, could just sit in the courtroom and listen to what the case is about. So before we make that decision, we still have time. So let me see what I can find out between now and the beginning of the week. I should be able to get pretty much all the information I need.
So that works out, but as abundance of caution, I'll add it on the council communication for
Sure.
the end of this month, just in case.
If there's an issue and I
To
really
get
think,
updates as an
if I really think it needs an executive session, I will let you know.
enough. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. This